Hey, gang. I'll wait for a couple people to filter in. It's fine. Oh! Does it look redder on your end? My, computer just went into nightlight mode. You hear any rattling, that's my fan going. Oh yeah, it's not actually coming through. It might come through when I'm talking, but, I think noise suppression gets it otherwise. 'Cause my computer is doing a lot of things at once. My thing has been a little finicky, but, let's see. I want to make sure I have my tablet driver functioning. Being the only one here feels odd. It's fine. It's normal. It takes a little bit for people to filter in. Usually it just starts with, the one person. Ding dong. Please, okay. These are beginning to function as I want them to. Okay, yeah. Welcome, Fur with the Boots, to the live stream! It's nice seeing a new face return so eagerly. I'm gonna maybe zoom in to start. Are you enjoying the Grumpy Down Bad and forgot? Oh yeah, you were. Oh, you were the. You did. Saw you mention something about offering on a trade. Yeah, we met on VoidPet. I guess. Thank you for the intoxicating Grumpy. Useful for my collections, excuse me. I'm gonna try to evolve it all the way up to stage 5, because usually my Void Pet collection strategy is, max out the stage and then swap it for something else. That's almost too close. I'm gonna go there. What if I made things bigger? Hehe, big. Hello, everyone. Welcome. You guys know what day it is? I don't know where that's going. It's Kirby Day, it's Friday night with King Dedede. It's, the day before my birthday. Oh, it's your birthday! Happy birthday, Magalore memes! Birthday buddies! Fuck yeah! That's great! So, yeah, this is just kind of a general headcanon stream. I have been at this whole, Kirby headcanon thing, since I was a kid, basically. A pretty young kid. I mean, my first exposure to Kirby was, literally since the moment I was conscious. We had I think our first home console was the N64, and we had Kirby 64, and I was a Kirby main in Smash Bros. 64. So that runs deep, but it was 2008. I think it was Christmas of 2008. Yeah, I think it was Christmas 2008. I got myself a copy of Kirby Superstar Ultra, and that game irreparably changed my brain chemistry, and now I'm an obnoxious world buildaholic about the funny kids game about the little pink marshmallow. Now, due to the nature of Kirby headcanons, I will add a little disclaimer saying that, partially in response to chat, but also just in general, I'm not sure if I wanted to, like, leave it up on screen the whole time, but Kirby lore is a lot more fast and loose than most people make it out to be, and as a result, everybody's headcanons are different. All of them. There's so much diversity in headcanons across the fandom. It's wild. And I will admit that, some of my headcanons are the result of me trying to come up with... I was, like, fitting things into the holes in the canon, and then new games would come out and clarify that and fill in those holes themselves. And so my headcanon has been through a lot of drafts, a lot of changes over the decade plus I've been doing this. It's probably, yeah, I would say it's this December, I guess. I mean, it was kind of a gradual thing. I played a lot of Kirby Superstar Ultra, but I didn't start going into the headcanon zone until I had beaten Marks, beaten Galactonite, started thinking about that kind of stuff. You know the thing. You know the drill. But, like, yeah, it's going on 15 years. 14, 15 years since I've been doing this. This shit got me through middle school. It got me through high school. I have work-in-progress fanfictions that are older than some of my cousin's kids. So that's fun. And I did ask, please be prepared with, questions and prompts, because I genuinely never know where to start half the time. 'Cause it's so big. Like, do you want me to start with the astropolitical, situation that resulted in the fall of the Novan Empire? Do you want me to start with, like, we're at the very beginning of the universe? Do you want me to start before that? Do you want me to start, with, like, the overall cosmology of the whole thing? Do you want me to start on when Kirby was born? Well, start with his life story. Like, there are a lot of directions to go. And also, if you want to just, like, ask, like, hey, tell me about this character, and I can go on, like, it will absolutely take up a ton of space and time. You know, the whole shebang. This is kind of a little more of a slightly interactive stream. But I will have to, compensate if nobody has any ideas. So, I do have a visual aid, but most of this is, we can start with start wherever. I think I'm going to give the general gist of, like, the overall the overall... Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Excuse me for a moment. There we go. Window freaked out for a moment. The, like, overall universe of the whole thing. So, and there's two places I can start with that, which is the actual cosmic origin, like, of the universe, like the Big Bang and shit, and just from there, or I can start with, the fact that it's, like, it is technically, like, an alternate timeline. It's supposed to, my headcanon is set in the very distant future of an alternate timeline of Earth. And, this timeline is so alternate that, like, the structure of the universe is, like, probably not gonna do that, but, like, I could probably just start with the overall structure of the universe, yeah, so... I should probably turn down stabilization if I want my handwriting to look correct. Overall structure of the universe is going to be... So... Well, this is the overall structure of the multiverse, excuse me. The universe is just one piece of it. So you've got the ether, and you have the void. Excuse me. Now, originally, it was just these two. And it started out with, like, the sort of conscious embodiments of these two sections pulling apart from each other into two separate camps of primordial chaos. So, we've seen the embodiment, the conscious embodiment of Void in canon. Void Termina is there. Ether, there is one, who I call... Hang on. Alright. So Ether Genesis and Void Termina are like the conscious embodiments of these two halves of the universe. And they represent existence and non-existence. So things that cease to exist wholly, like entirely in the ether, will move to the void, and kind of vice versa, but they move back and forth pretty thoroughly changed. So they sort of, like, they're in that, like, they're like in an endless cosmic dance. In that sort of sense. Now, yeah, but first we need to talk about parallel universes. We haven't even gotten to the actual parallel universes. The universe we're concerned with is here. The ether comprises the multiverse and the etheric medium. And the etheric medium is what we know in canon as another dimension. So... hang on. It's basically the space between universes. And it is this royal and cosmic soup from which the multiverse springs. So it's very much, I think I'm gonna need a bigger eraser. Crank you up to about 160 pixels. So the multiverse is like a series of bubbles in the ether. And the void is more like loose and slapdash, like it's kind of all jumbled together. Interestingly, this cosmic structure is actually mirrored in my Pokemon headcanon, where I have the multiverse on one side ruled by Arceus, and I have Ultra Space on the other side ruled by Clipseron. and they're in more of like an order and chaos kind of duality. Whereas the Kirby, this arc-verse that I have for Kirby is like, it's chaos all the way down. There's sometimes, I imagine there's probably some bubbles within the void, but it's mostly soup. Speaking of beating Kirby in half an A-press, Pan and Koic released a new... No, that was like 4 months ago. I still haven't watched it. I want to. I really like his commentative videos. It's actually, they're actually really cool. So, with this basic concept of idea, like, Ether Genesis and Void Termina are like the dualistic gods of this arc-verse, and their splitting apart from each other was meant, like, the purpose of it was because as a single unit, the primordial soup, the primordial chaos got lonely and it wanted a friend. So it did a binary fission, and that is how we have the two halves of the multiverse. The arc-verse. The multiverse is inside of one half of the arc-verse. I gotta get my words straight. Multiverse is easy to fall back on. Arcverse, it can also be pronounced Archverse, so it'd be like, I call it this, the place that I took inspiration from calls it, this, and I got it from the Verse and Dimensions Wiki. I don't know why I chose to do a sideways smiley face emoticon instead of a regular ass smiley face, but I just did. Anyway, so reality putters along at its own space. God, even, like, I could still go in so many directions with this about, like, how the multiverse plays into things, and I'm going to do an aside and say that, while my Kirby headcanon fully encompasses this whole, like, cosmic, soup, inside of the multiverse, for my Kirby headcanon, is one universe. Metroid is canon to my Kirby headcanon. I take Samus's cameo in Kirby Streamland 3 as canon. I don't think it's not actually canon, but I have like accepted it into my heart. I'm gonna just write down that note. Now, there are some visual aids I'd like to use, and it might get a little slapdash. I might have, like, okay, so, I think I'm gonna pull up, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna zoom out a bit so this can stay on screen while I'm fiddling with other stuff. So this is what we have so far. And the reason I mentioned that the, basically God got lonely and split in two, to have friends, is related to an important, like, a sort of kind of important thing from Star Allies. Star Allies lore is a mess. Where are the fucking... it's on one of Void Termina's pause screens. Hang on. Na 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 da. Which one is it? Is it Void Soul pause screen, or is it a Void, just like an Astral Birth Void one? Where's my fucking pause screen description? Yeah, I can't find it in, hang on. So in Star Allies, there was this vague kind of concept, where, hang on. So, this isn't strictly canon, because Star Allies, translation was a mess. So a lot of things got lost in translation. I'm emphasizing that it's not strictly canon, because lots of people think it is, and in addition to that, lots of people who know it's not strictly canon also have incorporated it into their headcanons. So you have, okay, the Four Matters. I'm just gonna call them that for now. It's a little reductive, but we'll get over it. So, the ones listed, it's rough. Like, the way that people thought it was more legit than it was, because, well, it wasn't even capitalized in the, it's because it wasn't, like, listed in English in the original Japanese. It was, like, directly translated in kanji using Japanese words, which means they weren't, like, trying to list a major element. It's a sign that they're not trying to list a major element in the franchise and that they're just talking about it in general and vague terms. But, you have heart, soul, dark, and dream. We got yeah. The perils of turning off brush stabilization. I am waiting for the reveal that Splatoon is canon. That's not my headcanon. That's Khan's headcanon. Khan is one of my Discord Tumblr buddies, and Splatoon is canon to his headcanon. Well, it's more of an AU when he does Kirby things. But, like, he's one of my buddies. He also does a lot of cool shit with his Kirby headcanons, just kind of in a different direction. He incorporates a lot more of the anime. I'll do this. I think Dark Matter have maybe 8 petals instead of 6, but I'm gonna go with 6. 6 is like an arc number. And Dream, you got... that's... Beep. So... These matters are not strictly canon, but I have worked them into my headcanon regardless. And because of that, I've had fun. Like, they're not... I do not use them directly, but I do use them sort of metaphorically, kind of in the same way. So, same way that it was originally added to things. So, heart is literally just the power of friendship. Friendship is magic, baby. And For a while I didn't have it nailed down, but deciding that, my decision to make Ether Genesis and Void Terminus split from each other for the express purpose of having friends, that has helped me make Heart one of the most fundamental magical forces in the whole setting, which I'm pleased with because it was already, like, leaning towards that with a lot of canon details, and I needed, like, given the detail I go into with other shit, like, it's important to me that this is just as powerful as the other three, which are all very important. So Soul is a little more vague. That's the Ether, the stuff between universes. Ether, ghosts, psychic powers. The conscious effort of mundane creatures interacting with the magical substrate of the multiverse. It is probably the easiest. It serves as the foundation for all mortal magic, basically. Before Earth was exposed to magic fully again, the universe wasn't really that magical to begin with. They're like, each universe within the Ether has different levels of magical influence within them, and that depends on, like, how, like, you gotta think of, like, a cloth. Like, think about it like a washcloth versus plastic wrap. One of those can let water through and the other can't. Now think of those in terms of the membrane of the universe, and the water is, like, the magic outside of it. So, depending on how permeable the universe is to magic, the more magical it will be. And this can be changed by outside forces, but only in, like, seriously catastrophic situations, which we will get to later. So, Dark represents Void, and what I like to call chaos magic. Now, chaos magic is just, like, powers derived from the Void as like, implemented within, like, a mortal universe in the Ether. So, it's my fuck you brand of magic. It's the kind of magic that, like other forms of magic, especially, soul magic is, like, because it is the most native to regular universes, it is also, like, kind of the most restrictive. It's the most common. It has the most... Well, it has a lot of rules. And, like, it's sort of like the code of the universe. Like... Whereas chaos magic lets you fuck with things. It's kind of like my, like my author's get out of jail free card. It's a little bit, like, there are still rules to it, and mortals still have to learn how to harness it, but entities that are native to the Void can often just do things without regard to the laws of physics and, more local laws of magic. Now, Dream is fun, because I haven't actually gotten to the complete structure of the universe. Seraph energy. Now, what else am I gonna play? My thing is going to... I can play... Oh, hang on. I'm gonna find another song, because we're getting into the Seraphim, and that's a whole thing. Oh, wow. Where's the fucking... Rainbow Resort... I wanna do a Rainbow Resort remix. Resort. Map. Theme. OC remix. Please be the one. Welcome to Rainbow Resort, that's the one! Right? It's a little quiet. So, the Seraphim. Note how I didn't just draw a line, I drew 2 lines. There's a little bit of space between the void and the ether. And, this is the Cloud Realms, the home of the angels. So I'm gonna redraw it, but like with a slightly different perspective. So we're gonna do it with, it's generally, I've generally envisioned it with the void as like a beyond sort of sky realm, and the ether is down here with us because that is where we are. Mario Paint music, that's, we can get silly with music once I get into some sillier shit. I'm taking things a little seriously right now. So the Cloud Realms are the home of, creatures called Seraphim. They're not angels as we understand them, because they are not necessarily beholden to either of the gods. But they, like, serve as a kind of, like, barrier between the ether and the void to sort of allow each to flourish and prevent them from sort of mixing back together and destroying everything. Where's it? There it is. So, Seraphim are just like a whole, they're kind of like gods in their own right, but they do have limited lifespans. When I pause like this, it means my train of thought, it means I'm stopping at a crossroads and I have to decide which of the 46 paths I want to go down. So they got a weird magical lifespan, and they produce a specific, like, they have a unique substance. They're all made of it. Like, the Cloud Realms has its own paradigm of matter within it, and it's important for Kirby stuff later. So you see me, like, doing these little things. These are seraph nests. So, Seraphim reproduce asexually. They live out their lives, which can range anywhere from... Like, they live for basically the length of the universe. So they can be... the younger ones are like a few billion years old. The, babies are like a couple 100,000. The babies can be very cute, or they can be hideous. They all look vastly different, even within siblings. So the way Seraphim reproduce are asexually is at the very end of their lives, they sort of level up into this, like, super form, and then they just leave their home nest, and they go out across the Cloud Realms, and when they find a suitable space, they basically, produce... Like, they, like, overproduce their own blood. And they use it and solidify it into a new nest. So, they will go off on their adventure. They'll build a new nest. The new nest will have a fountain at its center, which will constantly, forever, I'm gonna loop that remix real quick. I'll play it one more time. And then I can go to, like, a extended version of the actual things. The center of the nest will produce a fountain that will flow forever for as long as the fountain exists. For as long as the nest exists, excuse me, because the fountain's there. And this is supposed to feed their offspring. And then, once the nest is done, they'll root each one will root one end in the ether and one end in the void. And the way the fountain goes is that they're called the Cloud Realms, is because the fountain's waters evaporate into all of the clouds that fill the cloud realm. So it's like a fluffy cloud heaven type of thing. Okay. So, once they do that, they lay their eggs, and then they die. And then, so, seraphim only know their siblings, but they're very close together. They're very emotionally close. So what does the example of a seraphim look like? Let's see if I can find it. Do I still have it? Is it out in the abyss? I made an infographic of these in high school. Long time ago. And I don't know if I wiped my DeviantArt after the AI fiasco, but I don't know if they're anywhere else. They might be on my Tumblr. Let me check there. Let me see. Come on, scroll down, scroll down. Ah! I made a typo in the search bar. I'm just gonna look through my Kirby's headcanon tag. It would be really far back, because that would be like 2016, 2017. Come on. Do I have it? Do it exist? Does it exist? Do I still have it? Because I don't have it on this machine. I would have to do some dumb fucking bullshit in order to show them to you directly. But they really can look like pretty much anything. They typically have 6 wings, like, actual mythological seraphim do. How did you come to the conclusion that this is how the Kirby universe works? Lots of extrapolation. It's complicated. But I can tell you that there are, seraphim, there's one specific, family of seraphim that is very important to the overall events, and their nest is also important because the waters from their nest are used in mortal magic in the Kirbyverse. So examples, an example of a seraphim. So do I have my fucking hang on. Do I still have their official art? So the old version so there are 6 seraphim in that important nest. So the nest I call it is Rainbow Sanctuary. Rainbow Resort map theme extended. Please, YouTube, give me music. How much is that extended? I'll take 10 minutes. Show me. 3 of the seraphim I'm talking about in that important family are canon characters. So, but their canon versions are very distorted from though I know you're not a seraph. I don't fucking know, because I can't come back after my entire physical form is eliminated. I do have my fucking... So, the canon character... I'm just gonna go ahead and, say... Since I'm using this like a whiteboard, I don't have my visual aids immediately available. But, Rainbow Sanctuary. I'm gonna write them down from eldest to youngest. And they're sextuplets, so... It's, oldest to youngest by a matter of days. Well, days. The concept of a day didn't exist back then, because it was, like, a couple thousand years before the universe was born. But, you might recognize some of these names. Maybe. Necros, Zafkiel, Hasya, Mialo, Farewell, and I ran out of space. Let's get Zeroel and... Now. Three of these are OCs, and 3 of these are canon. My handwriting is dog shit in a digital format. Alright, so I have broken with... Oh, Seraphim are usually quite large and pretty opulent and have, like a core at their center that's, like, their magical, it's basically a magical heart. But it can take pretty much every form. And, I'd have to, like, get into the weeds with that. Do I have... No! I have the Seraph designs. Hang on, I might have to pop into my other machine after all, because... Just doodling them doesn't feel right. It don't feel right. So I'm gonna fucking pop these motherfuckers over. I'll pop these motherfuckers over somewhere. Different bookmark, please. Okay, where's my pictures? Where's my fucking... I have, like, rough visuals for everyone. And they might be a little outdated, because I haven't drawn them in, like, literal years. But, let's see. Angels. The angels. Do that. Upload this. I will be back, and I will be almost done. It'll be just a moment, please. Those are 2 OCs, 2 Seraph forms of... Where the fuck did I put Hasi? Should have a reference for her, right? There she is! And I need to find Zero. I have a much more recent picture of Zero than all of these. And then I just never finished the others. Fan art should be in my fan art. There he is! Okay. Headphones. Back in. Closed some of these spare tabs that I have open. Theory Nightmare is just some random dude who found a magic cape and then took a nap in the Fountain of Dreams. A little more complicated than that, but because I care so little about Nightmare, he really is just some guy. He's an extremely talented wizard, but he's not, like, quite as cosmically important as a lot of these other characters are. I'm going to... Can I... fix, download, I guess? I guess they'll be zipped and downloaded as a folder. Alright, so some of these are rough, some of these are outdated. I've been meaning to, but they'll give you a rough idea of where I am with the, with my serif designs now. But are they? Are they? Yes, they are. Okay. So, I'm gonna show you my OCs first. We're gonna just pop you there. There's Mahasya. There's Temaluk. There's Zathkiel. I need to fucking redo him. This is like a extremely rough design. But like, the siblings of a serif clutch will usually have a very, like, similar, body plan and theme. So, on top of the usual, like, 6 wings type beat, they also have, like, a white core with some variety of single eye, and you 6 hands in some form or another. And now we hit with our canon boys. Necrodius, as Necros, in his original form. Boom! This is him at full power and in control of himself. This is Mialo, or Mind, when he is not starving and half dead. And Zero at full power. So, these are, did I watermark this? Somewhere. Oh, yeah, there's my little signature in the corner. So 3 canon characters with fan designs, and 3 total OCs. And, Rainbow Sanctuary is the most significant to my headcanon because of their involvement with, like, the vast cosmic plot of the story. So, now that I've, like, told you the whole overall cosmic structure, what the hell a serif is, how these formatters play into things, this is actually the perfect groundwork to actually get into the meat of what actually, like, shit that actually starts looking more like Kirby. So, I'm gonna add a new layer, and we are going to hide that. So, there was a big, eldritch, catastrophic event that changed the universe from a boring, like, realistic Earth universe into the Kirby universe we know and love today. And, how do I describe this? I'm a lot better at, ranting on in text than I am in speech form, because with text I can gather my, thoughts more easily. And this event I call, like, it kind of gets Swiss cheesed a little bit, and that lets in the ether, and that's why it's magical now. And it's because some weird shit happened with the Void. Now, normal-ass universe, normal-ass Earth, still an alternate timeline. The Kirby video games do not exist on this Earth's timeline. This is the universe where Twinkle Popopo actually got released. Should I leave this music or should I pick something else? Hang on. I might pick something else. It's a little bit different. Okay, so this event I have been calling the Disruption. Oh! Yeah, my Kirby, technically, my Kirby universe is post-apocalyptic. There have been several apocalypses of various levels that have driven the overall events of the series. So you have a normal-ass Earth. What's the point of living if there isn't any Kirby? We'll get there! That's like several million years in the future. Please be patient. Hang on. Where are you? Hi, sweetheart. Eh. Eh. It's time to play with JPEGs like dolls. Come on, come on. Let me paste Adeline into my thing. Where are you? There she is. So, Adeline and her mother, Lorraine, are just two normal-ass Earthling humans. In the year... well, it's kind of thing. So, in this universe, we invented successful, cryosleep by the 2030s. And... I can't remember, So, Lorraine and Adeline are technically from, the 2030s? But, due to life circumstances and, like, personal shit that her mom was going through, they decided to go on ice for 100 years. So, hang on. I think it was, I can't remember if I think it was 2037 they went under, and they woke back up in 2137. So, I'm gonna just do, like, a little, I'm gonna just anime dead mom hair. She has glasses. And I came up with this story idea, so it's a little less polished than some of my other stuff. Oh, and also, Addo and Adeline are the same person in my headcanon. Addo's just a nickname, and because I don't feel like dealing with that many characters. It just doesn't make sense to me. I would rather deal with a diverse range of characters rather than a bunch of characters who are almost the same. So they kind of look like eggs. I haven't actually designed the cryosleep pods, but they kind of look like eggs. Is Addo fatherless? In this context at the moment, yes. Some of the personal things we're going through, I can't remember what I had. I think I had her biological dad die when she was little. And then Lorraine, like, dated around for a while. And she wound up in, like, kind of an abuse scenario. And, like, going into cryosleep and, like, being, like, some of the first people to test the cryosleep pods was, like, a bit of a panic decision on her part to get herself and her kid away from this freak. So, I'm gonna just put the dates down. So they wake up in 2137, and they're just kind of, like, trying to get used to things as part of the cryosleep program, because it's, like, a research thing. They're, like, trying to test the efficacy for the most part, and it was a success! Now that they're just out and about in this future world, they're trying to acclimate, they're trying to get used to shit. And Adeline wakes up to some mysterious, like, freaky shit. Like, there's, like, some weird shit goes down. And by weird shit, I mean, I'm gonna do this. Bing, bong, 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 bing. Bing, 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 bing. Bing, 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 bing. weird eldritch powers start waking up in her. I'm gonna do a little... I'm gonna just... Went to sleep to wait out her boyfriend's lifespan? Yes! What on earth is... Okay, that's just... It was bad. Trust me on this one. Weird eldritch powers start waking up. And... she doesn't really know what to do with herself. And, like, because... But, like, the way things go down is, Come on, Zero. Get your ass over here, Zero. God, you're huge! He's not actually that big. He's more like... I'm gonna do a size chart for these characters eventually, but I haven't done that yet. So he's more like... roughly this big. I'd say he's about that big. I didn't even really, pick her up. Anyway, so Zero descends from the Cloud Realms, because, the Sanctuary Wardens, which is what I call the Angels of Rainbow Sanctuary, the Sanctuary Wardens have been kind of just watching over Earth for basically all of human history, just for shits and giggles. The formation of the universe was, like, their baby sensory videos, and, like, they just kind of chill. But they're mostly, like, neutral observers, and they'll tend to, like, involve themselves if, like, magic gets, like, weird and swifty, which was going on here. Zero was freaking the fuck out. Well, maybe not freaking the fuck out. It wasn't, like, freak-out worthy until after Zero had, known them for a while. And... so, like, it was... they didn't even know it was happening. Adelaine's just, like, started, like... she was just kind of minding her own business, and her dreams, like, started reaching out to the angels without her, meaning to. And, like, the force was, that was characteristic of the magic. There's, like, magical signatures in this universe, so, the magically attuned can tell what kind of magic is being enacted on them, usually. Whether it's, like, consciously or unconsciously. So, and because the angels are extremely powerful and extremely intelligent, and they're magical entities who are, like, near divine in their own right, they sensed that this power wasn't typical. And in fact, probably came from the void. One of the things the Sanctuary Wardens liked to do, sort of kind of protagonist powers, we'll get there. One of the things the Sanctuary Wardens like to do would be to keep, like, they've grown attached to Earth's universe. They, like, humanity is their collective Glorbo. They are fond of intelligent life. Well, she doesn't cause it on purpose. It's an accident. It's a terrible, terrible tragedy. And shit happens. I'm not gonna get into it, because I have a whole fanfiction draft where I intend to actually write this shit out. But, Zero comes down from the Cloud Realms to help Adelaine get a handle on her magic, because it's... the way it works, it's, like, so volatile and dangerous that the angels don't want to take any risks letting her magic go uncontrolled. So this is where she starts to figure out her, art powers. She channels it through her art. And the angels encourage this, because it keeps things under control. But, shit starts going sideways very fast, and, our little friend, our terrible tragedy, the disruption begins. I would say, I haven't actually settled on, I'd have to go back and look at the time frames I actually wrote out in that one ancient draft of a fanfic. But I would say probably maybe November, December 2137 is when, like, Adeline starts having nightmares. Her dreams get really fucking weird. She starts her magic just kind of goes haywire around her, and then it becomes very clear that it's not necessarily her magic. This poor girl was used as, like, a conduit by a terrible, evil... I wouldn't say he's evil, because it's, like... It's more inscrutable than evil, but, I want to do the tentacles. Give me line art. Give me automatic line art. Thank you. So, just... Actually, I should probably... So this entity is an entity I call the Master. I can't... This doesn't let me tentacle in the way I want to. Frustrating. I wish I could apply lines to individual brush strokes instead of... Do overflow starting in an incorrect watercolor edge. Can you give me watercolor edges? That's kind of watercolory, I guess. What is the process after brush stroke? Blurring with, opacity, darkness. No. It's just a mess. I'm just gonna scribble out some... Is the Master's last name Bator? No. I'll do the actual... What does it look like, I think? It's like a... I haven't fully settled on, like, this entity's true form design, but, just think about what the Master Crown on Magolor Soul would look like if, like, by itself, just like a weird tangle of silvery, iridescent, tentacles in every possible direction, and it's no real... Anyway, Void Entity, an extremely powerful one, known as the Master, fucks shit up in the world of Earth. What is that? I'm getting layers. I'm getting too many layers. What am I getting layers for? I'm gonna title these layers so I know what the fuck they are. That's 0. That's Addo. So I can play with them like little paper dolls later. Anyway, this creature just, like, shows up in the universe and just absolutely fucks everything up. He starts punching holes in reality. It, where are my layers? Where are my layers? Oh, goodness, have layers! Is this another... Okay, that's the eyeball layer that I did. Okay, that's fine. So, the universe basically gets Swiss cheesed and ether starts leaking into it. In addition to that, the universe, like, this is for way later. It's not super relevant, but it, like, blisters around the side, and so by a process of etheric resonance, where, information just kind of bleeds out into the cosmic medium, let's say some of these have holes, and some of them are blisters. So it's like think of like a bubble with, multiple tiny bubbles all around it. Except this one also has holes. And, so ether's leaking in through the holes. by a process of etheric resonance, these blister universes they're just AUs. They, the main course of history exists within the main universe, this big central bubble, but all of these sub-bubbles are, like, mirroring it and, like, taking people and events from it, even if, the other events that would have led to those events' existence in the first place, like, it's, like, ontologically weird. So, like, characters are born for a reason and all that jazz. Fucking... I had the wrong brush open. And so, like, characters will be born, like, it's AUs. It's so I have a little bit of AU freedom, but the core universe is still this. And this is also relevant because while there are all these universes reflecting things, there is only one of each seraph, character, and one of, that's not number one, I should do, like, times one. And there's only one of each void entity. And, like, if they are from outside of the universe, there's going to only be one of them. Which makes things, and the etheric resonance makes shit especially weird, because sometimes these blister universes will copy these characters, but, like, not as their original selves. It will, like, the universe will just, like, make shit up. Because everything's gone to shit. Like, the universe and its new little multiverse siblings. Is Kirby right back at you in one of those bubbles? I would say yes. It's not a bubble that I'm going to explore, but I would say that it definitely counts. Because it is a retelling of the events of Kirby in a different context. Super Kirby Clash is in one of those bubbles. The true arena of Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe, the bad ending, where you don't get to save Magolor. That's in one of the bubbles. The universe that, Parallel Susie is from, that's in one of the bubbles. Stuff like that. The Dreamy Gear's timeline is in one of the bubbles. Shit like that. It's not super relevant. I have an Into the Magoverse fanfiction planned for much later in the timeline. That's actually, like... And so, basically, Magolor teams up with himself a bunch of times to go chase down pieces of the Master that got flung throughout the universe and into these bubbles. So, what happened during the disruption is, shit went sideways, shit went pear-shaped, shit went tits up, the huge. The angels evacuated from humanity from Earth to Venus, which would eventually become Ripple Star. Both Lorraine and Adelaine chose to go back into stasis. Does Magolor memes show up in the Magoverse? He can! I can give you a cameo at some point. I don't fucking know. I haven't started writing it yet. So, humanity, humanity is evacuated from Earth to Venus. Life on Earth is scattered all the fuck throughout the universe, in various directions. So, Venus was forcibly terraformed to be habitable now. Mars was forcibly terraformed to be habitable. Shit like that. Venus would eventually become Ripple Star. What is it? The ribbon? Yeah, it had the ring with the ribbon on it, and then it had... Venus would eventually become Ripple Star. It is still a spherical planet. It just has a magical barrier around it. Same thing with Popstar. Popstar, yeah, Addo woke up, messed up the universe, and went back to bed. Yeah, she was so upset by all of this that she just, like, locked herself in the ice cube in her personal little ice box. And because of the magical bullshit, like, the power of the stasis pod was greatly increased. So, hang on. Venus. It says, looks like it says Venus. Venus becomes Ripple Star. Mars is spontaneously grown to semi-Earth size and becomes Pop Star. Earth is flung out to the far reaches of the solar system and becomes Shiver Star. What else did I have? I don't know what happened to Mercury. I haven't really thought that through. How does this relate to the solar system shown in Star Allies and Superstar? I haven't fully worked out my solar system shit. Uranus becomes Sky High. I'm gonna say Jupiter becomes Half Moon. Saturn is stolen. During the disruption, one of the things the Master did was take Saturn and move it to a different plane of the same universe, and so now it's the third planet in Halkandra's solar system. And one of the pieces of the Master was sealed in Saturn's pole. And the reason for that is that in Return to Dreamland, when you fight Magalor's soul, his rings change to weird hexagons. And I've decided to make this the, like a magical circle relevant, or, like, specific to the Master. So, and, Saturn, in real life, has a storm at its north pole that is hexagonal in shape. So, like, if shit goes sideways again, the polar storm, the polar vortex on Saturn, is going to glow with this symbol, and it's going to suck. So I haven't fully worked out. Some of the planets are in the original star in the Sol system, which becomes named Starin after the space age kicks off in earnest. What's that? They're like Mekai is just like a blasted rock in the middle of nowhere that gets built up into an ecumenopolis. So the solar system in Star Allies, since chat mentioned that, the solar system, so you have, Kirby makes a whole lot of talk about the galaxy and shit. The Milky Way has, 6 arms, right? I think? So we are somewhere here, in real life. The solar system doesn't really change places in the galaxy, so shit doesn't happen that terribly. It would have had the Seraphim not stopped it, but this is like, are we in the Perseus arm or the Orion arm? Let me look that up. Where are we in the Milky Way? Tell me. Our solar system is between 2 of the main arms. Ooh. We're more like this. And then the small partial arms named the Orion Spur. So we're between Scutum Centaurus and the Perseus arm. And there's like a spur called the Orion Spur, and that's where we are. So I was kind of close on both. But when the Jambandrins were banished, they were banished to the Galactic Rim. And Hyness mentions this in his rant in canon. He says they were banished to the edge of the galaxy. So I took the Jambandra system and literally put it on the edge of the galaxy. I haven't fully thought through the astronomy of it all quite yet. Let me find a new song. Milky. Give me. Give me. There we go. Since we're talking about space now. So shit gets all kinds of fucked up due to the disruption. The angels, they basically tear this guy to shreds. He gets all kinds of fucked up. He gets shattered into a bajillion pieces. There's a master fragment on... Hang on. Marx is like 14 years old at like... He's like 12 during the time of Milky Way wishes. He's not involved at all. This is like... way before. I haven't even gotten to the silent era yet. So... Master... Fragments... Eat. 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 That's more like it. So the Master Fragments. 3 of the angels chose to seal a piece of the Master inside of themselves as a desperation move. And that does actually eventually lead to their status as villains for various reasons we can get into later. Or whenever. So the Master Fragments, we've got the one inside of Zero. We got the one inside of Necros. We got the one inside of Myalo. You got the one... inside the Master Crown. You got the one on Saturn. That's 5. Did I have any others? These are the important ones. The Master is Galeem? No. That's getting into, like, headcanon Omniverse and Eternal Nexus shit, which is, like, way outside of today's curriculum. Smash Bros. Is canon to my headcanon, but it's, like, a way off distant, like, afterlife. So Smash Bros. Only happens because everyone has been dead for thousands of years, if not millions, and are slowly getting bored of, just kind of sticking to their own universe recreations. I'm gonna say some AU bits. One of which is the DX True Arena Master Crown. And then there's probably, like, a couple other. I haven't actually fully blocked out this, the events of Revolution Flame yet. But there'll be at least 3 over the course of that story where they have to go, like, find that shit and kill it. But if I want it to be, like, a reasonably long fanfiction, like, it's going to end with them having to go defeat the bad end version of Magalore for good. It's real sad. It's fucking sad. But, like, along the way, they have to, like... They have a run-in with President Parallel Susie. They have a run-in with Susan. And... the Magalores... One of the Magalores they recruit is from the same universe as Anna, which is a popular fanon name for, Parallel Susie, that, my circles generally call Parallel Susie Anna. So there's Susie, Anna, and Susan. And there's, like, a version of a Haltman Works in this alternate universe where, Susan has, like, captured a piece, like, that fragment of the Master in that area, and is now, like, experimenting on it and shit. But that's, like, not super relevant, because that's AU shit, and that's, like, within the purview of a single fanfiction, whereas this other stuff is, like, relevant to, like, the entire story for the next several years. So, one of the things the disruption did was it, like, violently fused together various forms of Earth life, and did things like exposed animals to magic, enough to make them intelligent, and, due to some disagreements between the angels, Zero fucked off into the void. Not into the void, but, like, he fucked off, like, out into deep space, because humans were being, like, weird about not ruling themselves, because they had just had several semi-divine entities evacuate a good billion or so people off of Earth. But, maybe I wouldn't say a good billion. I feel like it was more like 700 million. The humans' population took a pretty big hit. While they were, so with Zero fucking off into the middle of space nowhere, the other angels had to focus on, tending to the human, pods, the stasis pods. They left them in there. The humans went back in there because, it was the way to preserve the life forces, like the life signs of humans who had been forcibly, fused with other animals. And that's how we get fairies and kikis on, Ripple Star. So you have, but because Zero fucked off into the middle of nowhere, he's the one with the meat powers. His power, so the Seraphim of Rainbow Sanctuary have powers that are, like, a semantic superpower that are based around 2 theme words. Zero's theme words are blood and energy. And he has meat powers and can control, like, elemental stuff. So, like, that's his thing. He can do light, he can remove light from a space to make it dark, he can turn his own blood into a crystalline solid, and he can turn your face inside out and back again without killing you. Where does Forgotten Land take place? Because we haven't made it. We haven't made it to the Empire yet. That's like that's like people living there. That's like an offshoot colony of the ancients, that lost contact with the Imperial core because of, another fucking fuck-off magical apocalypse, because it's this guy again, it's this guy, it's always this fucker, and it's because some, stuck-up fuckface, Halcandran Emperor decides to take the Master Crown, and it turns him into a fucking kaiju, and, the first cult of Void Termina resurrects Void to defeat it, and then other heroes have to band together to defeat and seal Void, and so the Emperor's dead, there's a succession crisis, because the Emperor has, like, 7 bastard children, and the royal line collapses, Halkandra's taken over by a military coup, Popstar has the agrarianist revolution, where was I going with this? Yeah, because of all that, like, political upset, the New World from Forgotten Land is, like, way off, it's like, kind of on the outskirts of the Empire, and they lost contact, with the Imperial core, and in turn, from losing contact, they also lost a lot of, like, the super nice technology, so that's why they had to basically thrive on mundane technology, and, the capture and experimentation of Becto-Elphalis was sort of them reclaiming space flight and portal tech from a new source, because in the Imperial era, that was based on Seraph energy. Dream matter was a highly valuable resource in the Imperial era. So right now we've got Earth, we got, hang on, like, for timelines so far, maybe I'm gonna make another typing? What if I just hide all of that? Let these two fuckers do their thing. Line! Horizontal line! Horizontal... Should probably make the brush size bigger, too. Beep, 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 beep. So we got the disruption, which is, like, the moment when it turns from alternate Earth to we're in Kirby land now. Hero fucks off into space. Zero fucks off into space. I'm gonna make my brush size a little smaller. And if you want me to, like, skip all of this, like, super duper background shit and, like, jump way forward into the timeline to the present day, I mean, this is just all groundwork for stuff that eventually has consequences in the modern day, because, Zero, Necros, and Mialo have their master fragments sealed within themselves, and that drives basically all of their decisions, and, sets off, like, a lot of shit going on with canon. Humans go back into stasis, and for this long-ass period of time, I said it was about 6 million years. So, the Silent Era, while the humans are on ice, the other sapient species of the galaxy evolve. So, on Halcandra, you've got stuff on Halcandra, on Popstar, just, like, all over the place. But, like, yeah, the ones that are important are gonna be, like, hang on. Speculative evolution. The speculative evolution, this is where a lot of my species headcanons come in. So let's have a little bit of fun with phylogenetics! So evolution, during the Silent Era, across the galaxy, has been artificially accelerated in a number of places. Well, it's not artificially, it's like... no one's doing it on purpose, but the magic filtering into the universe now is, like, causing more mutations and causing weirder mutations and, like, allowing animals to cast spells and shit. So, on Popstar, actually, I'm gonna use my stickers. Where's my stickers? Show me the stickers. I'm gonna do a cute shady yellow. Where are my stickers? Beep. That's that. I need to do particle size. Beep. Bigger than that. Beep. It has a glow to it. Maybe not. I'm gonna do this one again. Particle size. Beep. On Popstar! It's where teleporting blood gets invented. Yeah! Teleporting blood gets invented here. So you got Popstar. I'm gonna rotate this so I don't fuck it up. I still fucked it up. Flip it backwards so I can fuck it up less. I don't even need to, it's just like a shitty doodle. I don't need to focus that hard. Anyway, shit happens on Popstar. A lot of uplifted animals live on Popstar. So that's how you get the animal friends. Actually, I'm gonna move my little Popstar doodle to another layer so I can move it around. Do like so. The silent era, you got the important ones on Popstar. The floating robot gloves. Yeah, it is me. It is copium. But, like... come on. I've had these I've had the... floating... Listen, Kirby's Return to Dreamland is important to me. By the time Triple Deluxe had come out and given us more floaty hand characters, I was already on the floaty hands or Halcandra thing specifically sauce. Or at least a magical thing specifically. It's just magic. It's magic bullshit. We have a lot of magic, doing shit. Popstar. What do I want to say? I want to do grab. I want to grab other things. Bing bong bong, bing bong bong. Did I lose my tab? I was listening to the... Did I lose my fucking tab? Where are my tabs? I'm gonna look at my history for a hot sec. Excuse me. Closed. Oh, that's Windows. I want to see recently closed tabs. Resort app. Try to Dreamland Deluxe. OST. Yeah, I think I got a little too frisky with closing other tabs that were not super relevant. Super relevant, not super relevant. I'm gonna listen to this one again. It's cute, and it's nice, and I like it. Don't you have 100 million tabs out? I use one tab, and on this machine I have 184 tabs stored, but right now the tabs I have open, I have about 7. Now I have about 5. So I'm... Don't even ask about my other machine. That's like a mess. Okay, so on Popstar, you have the uplifted animals, you got the animal friends, they're just like random ass shit. So you have the hamsters, the fish, the owls, they're just guys. But how do we get to puffballs? Because they are by far the most dominant, like, collection of species. It's more like a family. It's not even like... What's the next... I don't know the mnemonic for remembering all of the levels of the phylogenetic tree. I keep getting, like, class, family, and order mixed up, but I know genus is over species, and I know kingdom is over phylum, I think. Puffballs did not evolve from sponges. They evolved from seals! So, this is where the Fountain of Dreams comes back into play. So I didn't really touch on this when it came to Dream Matter, the Seraphim, the way the nest of Rainbow Sanctuary influences the world. As a parting gift to assist the mortals who they had saved from destruction, they left springs around the galaxy that lead directly back to Rainbow Sanctuary. So the waters of these springs can be magically manipulated into pretty much anything for my purposes. And they're just kind of around. So the waters of the Fountain of Dreams and the waters of Rainbow Sanctuary are the same thing, which means they share like a magical cosmic makeup with the angels themselves. And nobody get to fucking... Okay, so they're magical... What I'm trying to get is, there is a fountain... The Fountain of Dreams is on the North Pole. The Fountain of Dreams is on the North Pole of Popstar. And that is... I'm gonna undo that real quick. I keep forgetting to manage my tabs and layers correctly. So, at the North Pole, of Popstar is a region called Rainbow Resort. And that surrounds the Fountain of Dreams. The area around this, just like in the general, it's like, there's like a map. I haven't done Popstar's map at all. I think I had like something that looked kind of like this. Or something, and then there was like shit up here. But like along the North Pole, there's like an icy area with mostly ice flows. It's basically similar to the Arctic on Earth. There's a little more land. Instead of just being an ice cap over an ocean. And on this ice cap live a bunch of seals. And the waters of the Fountain of Dreams spreading throughout Rainbow Sanctuary. Not Rainbow Sanctuary, Rainbow Resort. Rainbow Sanctuary is the Seraph Nest. Rainbow Resort is the icy region on Popstar. It is contiguous with Orange Ocean. Probably has its own ocean, kind of how the Arctic Ocean is its own thing. Anyway, there are seals living here. And the waters of the Fountain of Dreams fuck with the seals' genetics. And turn them rainbow colors, and let them fly, and make them smarter. And, like, I feel like Zerx, the teacher in chat, is goofing off in class. I'm allowing you to goof off, because that means it's technically not interrupting me. It works. Seals. The seals did things, so, like, the reason I picked seals is because I had decided pretty early on that I had wanted, the puffballs to be mammals. And the only animal that's round and flippery enough to evolve into something like a puffball is a seal. They're so round. They're just so friendly. So, like, you got the usual seals. Their babies are fluffy. They make funny noises. They can close their nostrils on command, and they have big, adorable, dark, wet, stupid baby eyes. And, like, that's literally just, like, the real-world equivalent of Kirby, basically. So, you have seals, you've got Rainbow Resort, like, affecting their genetics, magically, so they come in, like, start coming on rainbow colors. I like, got the snout perfect just by accident. Yeah, that's what I wanted. So, like, their flippers would get big. Like, it's... The weird thing is that they, like, developed this thing where... Yeah, their flippers did get big. Their flippers got big. Actually, I'm gonna give them, like, a more wingy-looking thing, so it's not as, like, messed up looking. They're just little guys. And they started doing things... They have, like, they started, like, breaching out of the water to catch, like, flying fish and birds and stuff. And then, over time, they began to check out land again. So this kind of developed as them being, like, flippy flappy, that. And then they started to re-evolve, like, kind of a sea lion-y sort of stance. Some of them developed smaller flippers, and this is the part where Mr. Frosty's species started to branch off from what would become puffballs. So... Because they have more normal-ass arms, but they have a more obviously seal face. I should probably emphasize that they come in pretty colors now. Because, like, the Rainbow Resort did weird shit to them. So they, like, come in fucking candy colors. And this also, like, led to them being more inherently magical to varying degrees. So, now you've got weird seal people walking around on land. Do I know about Hoover the Talking Seal? No. I can look that up later, though. Seals are quite smart in real life. they're pretty intelligent animals. So you have, like, you reach a point where you've got, like, guys with little flipper feet. Well, they're a little taller than that. They're, like this. They're, like... Well, yeah, I really do think it, like, splits off here. So it would be, like, Mr. Frosty... Mr. Frosty's lineage of walrus people. I'm gonna give him his pants, just to be appropriate. So I'm not forcing him to be naked. And flipper size reduced, with the Mr. Frosty lineage. I'm gonna give him his pocket. I don't actually know what the species is called yet. I haven't thought of it. I've only, like, oh yeah, Mr. Frosty would be... He's another seal-type looking thing. Of course he'd be closely related to the puffballs. Mr. Frosty... And then you have another lineage, which is still, like, big flippery feet, but they scrunched up and now they are circular. Does that mean Mr. Frosty's seals have private parts and the puffball don't? They're just not on the outside, that's all. You ever look at a real seal? You don't see anything they don't want you. No, they don't want you to. So now they have, like, big... Like, the flippers are basically wings at this point. Like, they got... flippers, they got the flipper... yeah, it kind of starts to develop into a bat-like shape, I'd say. So you got sort of the puffball. Because of how reduced pinniped's limbs are, they only result they end up with, I think Mr. Frosty's species might have more fingers, but puffballs pretty universally end up with about 3 fingers per limb. And then shit gets weird, but that's more magical mutation. So you got these guys, and then you got... Their noses are still, like, reduced, because seals have, like, the big noses, but, like, they can close their nostrils, and then, like, their nose leather starts matching the rest of the color of their skin, so that it's not as visible. And so you get things where, like, whiskers. Whiskers develop into their little cheek spots. So those are, they're a little more, the skin's a little more sensitive. They don't have proper whiskers anymore, but they are a different color, usually. So they have little cheek spots, and that's where their whiskers are now. They got their little thing. They got their wing, and as they start to develop, there's like a magical split. Because there's like magical shit that causes one group to develop pretty normally, but they're so like the magical incident that like caused this lineage split was so wild that they started flying exclusively by the use of their magic. And as this magic sort of took over their bodies and they started relying on levitation more than actual like physical lift. They also develop larger eyes, these ones, but I think the cheek spots are a little less significant. But as they develop, come on, work with me. Come on. Okay, there we go. their wings became made of magic. So they might start to look... I'm gonna erase this line, it's not far enough away. They start to look a little bit familiar. With, like, a thumb claw, and usually 2 index claws. Now, who does that look like to you? It's exactly who you think this is. This is Marx's species. I call it axillars. And they got like, they give them these little magic. So yeah, as their wings become made of magic, they become, like, naturally magically adept. And such and so forth. And they're just kind of chill. They all just kind of chill. My brain keeps falling back on that with, like, that's like a filler phrase. I don't know why. It's because I instinctively fall onto filler phrases. And then, the same magical bullshit that happened here that gave these guys magical wings, made another lineage, split their hands from their wings. So now they have they're like reached back into their old ancestral DNA and, like, gave them these little three-fingered flipper hands. They're still very flexible, but they have wings. Where can I buy the textbook for this? I don't know when I would possibly be able to fucking get off my ass and publish a wiki with all of this information. Because, well, not everything became seals. This is seals becoming a bunch of other things. But yeah, the hands separated. They developed their own little, like, flippery. I imagine these are probably closer to the body, so they're more like a nubbin with a membrane or something. And like, with magic, further magic happened. You've got... this is just kind of like the neutral winged stuff. You've got guys who have, like, short-haired wings. That resemble bat wings. We call them Vesper puffs. They typically come in dark colors and have vibrantly bioluminescent eyes. Actually, I'm gonna do the fucking... I'm just gonna give him that. And then you got, I think I called them Eos puffs. I called them Kestrel puffs for a long time, and then wanted to do, because Vesper is related to the word for dusk, and so I wanted to maybe try relating to the word for dawn. And then there are some who technically have, their puffballs generally have, like, bat-shaped wings, but another magical thing, that happens is that, like, something fucked up their fur on their wings, and they spontaneously reorganized into feathers, but only on the wings. So now you get... I guess I'm gonna call them Eos puffs for now. I don't know. Number relates to this side. And then because magic shit keeps happening, there's another offshoot where they just fucking lose the wings altogether. I haven't really decided on a name for them besides puffs. They're just puffballs. I think culturally, they would just decide that the ones without the wings are the normal guys. Where's Mr. Duder come from? Mr. Duder's a ghost. I haven't given it much thought beyond that. Puff. And then, one more offshoot, where some of the magical stuff like bred out of their DNA, and they developed more natural-looking colors, smaller mouths, thicker fur, which hides their mouths, and you get... Hang on. I might have to turn on my stabilization to get this right, so we got... You get your Waddle Dees. Turn my stabilization back down. Waddle Dees are like the most common dudes in general, because they like don't... I don't know. They're just little guys. Waddle Dees are your most common guys. Puffs, less so. But they're still out there. The Waddle Dees just absorbed their food. That's anime canon. I am not beholden to anime canon, because it technically does not directly affect what goes on in the games. Excuse me. Other people do have other, explanations for that. But my headcanon is that Waddle Dees are just a type of puff. And they're fluffy, and their fuzz covers their mouth in general. So that's some evolution that happened during the Silent Era. What is this? I should be able to hide all of this stuff. I need to re-cadoodle my... I'm gonna... Sorry for a moment. Na 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 na. Yeah, there we go. You're playing Mr. Shine and Mr. Bright? Okay. So, as part of the... I think the original explanation is that the angels, like... What, did the angels create them? I don't think that's what I had exactly, but, Popstar doesn't have a true day and night cycle dictated by its rotation. The day and night cycle was made more Earth-like by the sun and by like an appointed sun and moon spirit, which are Mr. Shine and Mr. Bright. And this was to like make it easier for these like stranded Earth animals to acclimate to this fucking planet that they were just tossed on. Because they can't be evacuated back out. There's just too many of them. And they just kind of take up. But like Mr. Shine and Mr. Bright, like, so Popstar has a magical barrier. It is spherical. It is spherical underneath a magical barrier. The magical barrier is what is star-shaped, and then the rings are outside of that. Mr. Shine and Mr. Bright are probably on the inside of the magical barrier, and they sort of control the Sun and Moon fight. Well, they fight because it's Mr. Shine and Mr. Bright, and they are conscious entities that are not actually celestial bodies. They're not actually the Sun and Moon. I haven't actually given this as much thought as I probably should have. But, Shine and Bright are absolutely, like, day and night spirits of some kind. I haven't thought through their origins well enough to give a good answer to that. But I know that they, like, keep day and night in check on Popstar specifically, where other planets just have, like, a normal day and night cycle based on the sun that they orbit. It's one of those things that I haven't given a whole lot of thought to, because, like, it is an incidental thing that is resolved quickly it's resolved by the time Milky Way wishes it's over. It's very much the kind of, like, children's storybook storytelling that the older Kirby series relied on. Very kids gamey. It's not really something that you can necessarily apply well to a headcanon that relies so much on, like, actual science and astronomy and shit like that. But yeah, Mr. Shine and Mr. Bright are, like, living inside of the magical barrier. They probably draw their power from it. The barrier itself probably draws power from the sun itself. It's responsible for protecting Popstar from most meteor strikes. It keeps, like, cosmic disaster. It, like, blocks cosmic radiation because Mars's mantle isn't as active. Well, I think it was probably made magically more active by the events of the disruption. Shit like that, shit like that. So, the Silent Era also involves, the evolution of the Halcandrons. So one of the things that happened was, like, there's, like, void beings of all sorts, flooded into the world, into the universe, during the events of the disruption. The Master siblings, like, followed it through those portals, and so did Void Termina. And so you have, like, a bunch of void entities kind of all over the place. There's a void entity on Aquarius, named Toythulus. She's like an Echidna or a Tiamat sort of mother of monsters kind of thing. She helped stabilize some of the far-flung Earth life into, like, functional living organisms, and was, like, responsible for some animal uplifts throughout the star system, while the Master wreaked havoc and just kind of fucked around and had fun. Fucked around and found out. And there was another one, Luthkazash, who lives in the core of Halcandra. And during the bullshit that was the disruption, so, like, a weird rock in a weird part of space that was very close to one of the holes in the universe that let a lot of the ether in. Come on, come on, read the presence of my tablet pen. You can do it. I believe in you. There we go. So there's a weird rock in space. It's not a spherical planet. It's like a continent-sized hunk of whatever. And during the disruption... Yeah, this is just a new layer. Cool. This is where the Halcandrons evolved. It's, Hang on. Give me... There we go. So on Halkandra, another void god named Luthkazash set up shop and just kind of sleeps in the core. He's just kind of there. You gotta go. Okay, see ya, thank you. Thanks for hanging. You can watch the rest later if you want. Halkandra is... My fucking driver's acting up constantly. But, during the disruption, the Master was the one who brought Saturn to this region of space. And Luthkazash, which is actually the Master's twin, they're twin siblings, decided he didn't like that very much and they got into a fight. Because Luthkazash was like very fond of like some of the Earth organisms that just kind of landed here. And so, he put them back together in the same way that the angels put the humans back together. And that resulted in some weird, like, floaty, levitating, cat, goat, puma things. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit more. And that would eventually evolve to become the Halkandrans. So, because they have been influenced by chaos magic from the very beginning, that's why they have bullshit fuck you magic involved in their very biology. That's why they have the floaty bits. That's why they have portals in their blood. It's not local magic. It's weird shit. What is that? I'll give them, like, more normal, though. You're just doing these really shitty doodles. So, next connected to a body. Initially, their arms are still connected. Their forelegs are still connected. And they get like a little bit of extra because of the dumb bullshit that happened. Their paws start to re-evolve into fingers. But not yet. Kinda. Their arms are still hooked up. But it's their legs that detach first, and then eventually piddle away into nothing. And then the legs are just, like, detached at the hip, so they have, like, a floating haunch there. And then, because they're part cat, part goat, they got hooves in the back. They have little cloven hooves. That's also where their horns come from, and why they are still there as modern Halkandrans. And it's a pretty straight shot to, from these to Halkandrans. There are still, like, cousin species. There are still, like, there's a Halkandran mountain lion that's a close relative of the living Halkandran populations. So you got your dudes. And they, like, keep up with this levitation adaptation to float over the lava because this Halkandra is very volcanically active. It helps keep them safe from lava. And it, like, a lot of this shit eventually ties into their culture. So they'll have, like, fire and magma spirits as major fixtures in their religion. Luthkazash himself actually inspires a lot of the gods throughout a bunch of different religions in the area, but he's, like, interpreted slightly differently across the planet. So you got these little fuckers. God, he looks so high. That's such a dumb doodle. And, you get shit where, like, they start to develop a more of an upright stance. Because, one of the things... Both so that they can, like, reach into trees and pick fruit, because the goat part makes them... It let them, like, turn back into omnivores. So they got, like, a weird fucking plant. And that's our, like, weird little guy. And so they would do shit like... reach up and grab them. And that developed that helped redevelop hands and to help develop their upright stance. Thank you for hanging. I will continue. I will probably keep going. So that, and also, like, one of the dominance things that they kept from goats was butting heads to, like, assert dominance as animals. So, basically, literally locking horns. My brain is not functioning. Exit. There's the... Let me scroll through this again. This song isn't... This is just kind of repetitive ambience. But there are better noises for this. There we go. Hang on. I'm gonna give it... Put outside of the playlist so it can loop properly. Fangs out, of course. Imagine two goats butting heads, and then imagine two lions, like, attacking each other. So they do that. They, like... Claws out, of course. And that sort of led into the development of more of an upright stance. And just like, as things develop over time, their intelligence grows, their proportions change, and you get, like, I'm gonna do a simpler one, just like kind of you got the legs started to go first. The horns and ears stayed. They first, like, became kind of vestigial nubbins, I think. And, like, as they became more upright, I think they would probably have more of a slanted... Probably, like... If they were, like, almost like a T-Rex pose. Because if their legs are gone, and they just have, like, a vestigial nub back there. Shorter tails. Because you can't have that brushing into lava. Especially if you're starting to stand up more. Their shoulders start there. You get a more T-Rex pose. There we go. You have, like, kind of, basically they're equivalent to an Australopithecus, or, like, the kind of ape thing that's, like, pretty damn close to great apes as is. Maybe this is probably with, like, yeah, but, like, yeah. So once you get more like an upright stance, the tail is gone. There's probably, like, there's probably, like, a little bit of vestigial arm there. Just a bit. And from there, you get to larger, like, generally larger heads. Excuse me! Kind of chunky. And then they just have, like, the hands. They just have, like, fully detached hands. And, like, the magic is still, like, very much influencing them because they're out in the middle of space nowhere. Pretty much, like, bathed in the ether at all times. So their magical mutations are way weirder than pop stars were. And that's why they develop shit like floating body parts. They have the influence of chaos magic, of Luthkadash is just asleep in the middle of the planet. And also, the ether is bearing down on them on all sides. Little nose. And there's still like a mountain lion whose, like, feet stayed paws and still generally has this body plan. I think they might still have, like, thumbs, like a polydactyl cat might. But yeah, shit happens there. And once you have... Excuse me for just a moment. All the other shit I have. That's all the previous shit. Timeline! We're going back to the timeline, gamers! So the Silent Era is over. New sapient life has evolved. It is time for, like, I'm starting to lose steam just a little bit. The Silent Era ends. And you have... Yeah. I think I'm just gonna go through, like, play-by-play of major events. Humans wake back up as post-humanity. It's the Ripple Star Fairies and Kikis. Humanity makes first contact with Halkandra at some point. I'd say they kind of putter along for a bit. And Halkandra is like... Because during the Silent Era, like, this fuck million years. And, like, during this era is, like... Halkandra is developing civilization. It's a few thousand years. So they're, like, they're industrializing, they're developing technology, they're developing magic, too. They're very magically adept. And then they make first contact once they're, like, entering the information age, and, like, also kind of fucking around with dimensional shit at the same time. Just because, like, their location in space is so close to the ether. It's like it's like on another layer of the universe that is closer to the edge than usual. And with the ether just constantly bearing down on them all the time, like, they're very used to the kind of magic that can, like, warp space-time, teleportation, long, like, impossibly long-distance communication. Shit like that! And this is, like, the humans putter around for a bit, Halcandrons are puttering around for a bit. Magitech starts to really take off in these decades, I guess? Maybe it could be 100 years or so. Yeah. And then they're like kind of puttering around a bit some more. At this point, like, Halcandra is like under the rule of a magical emperor. And so the idea is, like, Halcandrans initially have a lot of respect for humanity because they're like, they were the ancients to the ancients. Humanity's kind of like the respected big brother of the sapient species in the galaxy because they're so old. Their culture goes back so far. And yeah. They form like a little coalition. I think they call it, yeah. And then big letters. I'm gonna put this in big letters. The Novan Imperial Coalition, also known as the Novan Empire, is a big spacefaring civilization with 3 capital planets. Halcandra's the capital, but Popstar and Ripplestar are both like secondary capitals, and the 3 of them together comprise the Imperial Core. And the idea is humanity is supposed to use their, like, wisdom to temper Halcandra's worst impulses. Popstar's there to make everyone friendly. They're all kind of like checks and balances together. So there's just, like, I'm doing, like, the broad strokes at this point. Just, like, the broadest of broad strokes. And the broadest of broad strokes means that, like, magic tech development... I'm just gonna put down. Magitech just start... Like, Halcandra's already been developing Magitech, but it really starts to go off once the Novan Imperial Coalition happens, because Seraph energy is rediscovered from the Dream Springs as dream matter. And it becomes an important part of all of their technology. Incredibly, incredibly important. And that's timeline. Dream matter serves as the function as, like, the base material and power source for basically all of their, like, big projects. So, like, energy spheres are made of dream matter. They're like a concentrated form of dream matter that are, like they're just, like, all hardened into a physical sphere and then are plugged into various machines. The Lore Star Cutter runs on energy spheres. The Clockwork Stars run on energy spheres, way more. The Lore Starcutter has about, like, I think it was 200? Yeah, I think there were 200. And, but, like, Clockwork Stars are so huge. Hang on, I'm gonna go down here. My handwriting is a little shit. There it is. There, it says better. Let's see if I can get some example pictures. It's your boy, Nova! Where's Stardream? Where's the Stardream final form? There you are. Stardream. So... Nova was, I think, number 4 in my headcanon. And Stardream was the very, very last. And so Clockwork Stars are unique in that, in addition, like, fully sapient computers are not typical of the setting. They, especially, like, these are basically godlike machines. And the reason they are so powerful and, like, so wise and so godlike and have, like, this powerful reality-warping wish power is because every time a Clockwork Star goes online, their consciousness is powered by an entire seraph nest. So, like, to the Halcandrons and to the actual technicians building these machines, mortals don't know shit about the Seraphim. They don't know about seraph nests. They don't know that they're a critical part of how a Clockwork Star functions. But, a seraph nest is basically 100% solid dream matter. Several tons of it. Probably several dozens of tons of it, honestly. Like, they are, like, skyscraper-sized poles with a little blob in the middle that's about the size of a house or a mansion. And so, all of that dream matter becomes, because dream matter, it's kind of like a miracle chemical. It's not really a chemical because it's a magical substance from outside the universe, but it's a kind of a miracle substance in that it can store data, as well as, be converted into energy. Oh, excuse me. I'll fiddle with my camera a bit. So it can store data, as well as, convert into energy, and manipulate energy. And because a Clockwork Star, the substances involved in the Clockwork Star, they, like, the magic technicians who built these things did not fully understand, like, the core system they had going on. They just kind of, like, incorporated some warp technology, and that just happened, and, like, a ton of dream matter, and it just happened to open up conduits directly to the Cloud Realms. So basically, the entire Seraph Nest serves as the Clockwork Star's brain. Because of their vast complexity, normally they would not be able to gain sentience, because all of that complexity would be dedicated to mundane computer functioning. So that's how you can have, basically sentient machines at a much smaller scale without a Seraph Nest, like the Lore Starcutter. The Lore Starcutter's intelligence directly scales with the number of energy spheres she has on hand. And once she has all of them, she's able to become conscious again. But, she's reduced to, like, a more typical computer, without without the spheres. They all have to be, like, plugged into, like, her fucking logic circuits and shit. But the Clockwork Stars are just so bonkers fuck off insane that, an entire Seraph nest is necessary for them to be conscious. And, there are multiple Seraph nests. So the way the Seraph nests, I mentioned how they were, like, rooted in the two, there are two etheric oceans on the very top and the very bottom of the Cloud Realms, and they're vertically rooted in each, so they're, like, kind of, almost like conduits, between the Void and the Ether. And one of the reasons I decided to stick with, Dream Matter, with, like, Seraphim and the Seraph energy being the dream in the Four Matters paradigm, is because the Cloud Realm sits between, the Ether and the Void. It sits between reality and unreality. A dream is a bridge to a place that does not exist. And what doesn't exist properly? What is the place of all non-existence? The Void! Fun. Yeah. So, circling back around to Clockwork Stars, they need a whole nest. That's actually why Star Dream is incomplete all the way up until, and even beyond. Like, Star Dream was never completed even during the events of Robobot, but Star Dream is not a fully sentient machine. Like, it does not have, like, a full, proper soul, because it was constructed when there were no Seraph nests linked to the universe left for it to plug into and use as its, like, brain. So, and that's why you see all these fatal errors and such, because it could output massive amounts of energy, and with the amount, because it was still, like, made with a bunch of dream matter, harvested from the dream springs, but because it didn't have a whole nest to it, to function, and because the magic technicians didn't know it needed one, a lot of people died. Lots of people died. And they decommissioned it and launched it into deep space. And that's what happened to Star Dream. But, like, Nova's kind of special, because his brain, the nest he's hooked into, is Rainbow Sanctuary. And so, by, like, he has, like, kind of, like a distant, kind of foggy understanding of what the angels actually are. Because Rainbow Sanctuary, because, like, the dream matter of the Sanctuary is able to store so much fucking data, the influence of the angels who were born there is, like, constantly, like, he can just kind of constantly feel it as, like, a background force, like an instinct for him. So that's why Nova gets up to some weird shit, and why it doesn't seem like he is a good guy. Nova doesn't seem immediately like he is a moral paragon. He kind of comes off as an amoral tool in his canon appearances. But that's because he's playing a long game. He's playing a game longer than most mortals, and even some of the Seraphim themselves are. Nova is actually himself responsible for the creation of Kirby. Kirby is an artificial test tube baby, and Nova is the guy who put them together. More on that later. I went on my Clockwork Star tangent about, what is it, Dream Matter? Yeah, I wanted to go into how Clockwork Stars require so fucking much of it that they need to hook into a whole nest. And because they hook into a whole nest, and there's also a limited number of nests. Like, it depends on, like, how many Elder Seraphim are building their nests. It's a whole thing. But, it plays into Nova's personality. It plays into Star Dream's lack thereof. It's why Star Dream started eating Haltman's soul, and that's because when it was, like, hooked up to him, it was like trying, like, its systems are designed to try and grab for basically any data storage it can. And that's why it absorbed Haltman, because it was scrabbling at his brain in the same way a newly online Clockwork Star would at a Seraph Nest. Hypothetically, if the remnants of Stardream were recovered following Robobot, and a new Seraph Nest has been, like, rooted in the universe since its events, hypothetically Stardream could come back as an actual person, as opposed to just, like, a murderous machine. It's still a very advanced machine. It is still, like, verging on true artificial intelligence, but true artificial intelligence does not, like, it's not enough. It doesn't have enough to fully have the kind of data processing that's necessary for a soul to develop. The lore developed a soul, but she's not as, like, spectacularly insane of a craft as the Clockwork Stars are. She's like, the Clockwork Stars are on a whole nother level. Like, a lot of effort was put into their ability to warp reality to their desires, and make some very serious changes. And just, like, just do shit. Just make insane shit happen. And of course they will do it to within their best ability. They can't do straight up miracles, but they can bring the full force of their, like, magical powers to bear to make a wish happen. Kind of like how, like in the Jirachi movie, Jirachi would grant wishes for candy by teleporting candy from elsewhere. Nova, I think Nova knew about Marx's, like, motivations, because he's just that perceptive. He's just that smart. And once again, he is playing the long game. I don't think he expected to blow up, but he's fine. He got better. And because of all that, Nova just kind of, like, Marx just said, yeah, I want to control Popstar, and Nova's like, sure, alright. But, like, we never actually got to see what Nova was up to. So I think he was just making his way towards Popstar. And I think he was just gonna settle into orbit around Popstar. And just kind of observe. I guess if he settles into orbit around Popstar, then he could, like, serve as an orbital laser to take out Marx's enemies. But Marx is a child at this point. He is, like, 12, 13, 14 during the events of Milky Way Wishes. And he's just salty about DDD stealing the food. And if DDD's going to DDD keeps getting up to shit, and Marx just thinks he can do a better job of government than DDD can. And then he dies, and he's like, ah, shit, I'm dead. And he's got some wacky motivations that we can get into later. Basically, the Skull Gang stole his dad's soul, and he's, like, on, like, a personal kid detective adventure to try and fix that. And, his Milky Way Wishes incident was kind of a side gig, and also, if he did have actual control over Popstar, he would be able to, like, weasel out Skull Gang activities on Popstar and, like, find leads and, like, do detective work, because he would have all the necessary connections for it. See where I'm going with that? But also, like, when he died, he decided to make the most of it, and, like, because now he's a ghost. So, when he's chasing down the ghost mafia, if you're also a ghost, it's very risky. Because one of the whole things, like, Scullies are, like, like, undead spirits bound to Necrotius' will. And Marx very much did not want that to happen. And he's trying to get his dad's soul back from a similar fate. Shit's wild, y'all. Shit's wild. Like, Marx is off doing his own fucking thing in the background, after his defeat. Marx meeting Magalore, actually, as part of Magalore's backstory, that's actually Magalore accidentally bringing him back to life with, like, because he's fucking around with, like, a spellbook. And it's just, like, it's a complete fluke. Marx sees this shit and he's like, I'm gonna go for that shit. I'm gonna take this advantage, because if I don't, someone else will, and someone else might not be as cool as me, and I know not to fuck with Kirby anymore. And I'm not out to steal people's souls. So, yeah, I'll take that, and Marx is a very determined kid. He is, absolutely full of determination. Undertale style. Motherfucker cannot be stopped, will not be stopped. He will change course, for sure. But, like, basically, Marx forgives Kirby for killing him while he is still dead. He's like, I'm a magical prodigy. I can probably figure out a weird way to come back to life with the right amount of resources. And he did. So that was a tangent. That was one hell of a tangent. What else can I talk about? Seraph Energy, Dream Matter, Era of Prosperity, magical technology, produced using Dream Matter, BDDDD. Now let's see. We all know what the fuck is up. So, in my headcanon, the dark matter are not like a nameless force of evil. They're just a type of person. They're an exceptionally weird type of person. They are very strange aliens. But otherwise, they're pretty benevolent. So one of the fairies of Ripplestar from Kirby 64. Ooh! Do I have Rewind on? Do I have the DVR on? I went into that a little while ago. Fairies of Ripplestar would be, I think I scrolled back. Like, yeah. Humans wake up, so I did the disruption. Humanity is evacuated to Venus. Venus becomes Ripplestar. The Silent Era happens. New sapient life evolves. Humans wake back up and rejoin the galactic stage. And because of, like, the bullshit magical forced hybridization, they are now, half-human hybrids with various animals. Fairies are part dragonfly, Kikis are part, cat. And together they comprise post-humanity. So they're just kind of chillin'. They are respected as, like, civilizational elders due to, predating literally everyone. And that actually does tie back into me talking about dark matter first contact, because the dark matter, so back here, Zero fucks off into space. Zero fucked off into space onto like a desolate rock in the middle of nowhere. And he is the Angel of Vitality. He has meat powers. And there was a lot of void influence on the rock he had fucked off to. And this, his life-giving aura, his life force as the Angel of Vitality, combined with this eldritch void force, eventually just turned into the dark matter. So Zero is an accidental creator god. and their civilization just kind of developed around him, and they kept him company while he was just out in space. And he grew attached to these funny little eyeball creatures. And so the idea is, like, they're broadly like a psychic hive mind. Individuality is optional, but it can exist. They have no sense of privacy. They have to, like, but, like, one of the things, like, they're not 100% aliens all the way down, and that's because during their societal development, they were zero fucked off into space far enough that as the dark matter developed and Dark Star Prime as a planet, like, grew into what it is today, or into what it was then, they were hearing messages from Earth. They were listening to the remnant radio waves of Earth broadcasts from millions of years ago. Maybe not millions of years ago. They were, like, developing as a species, like, all from, like, the instant zero fucks off back to space all the way through the Silent Era. Yeah, and sometime some centuries, like, they saw all of Earth's transmissions go dark. So, like, they like, basically witnessed a planet's death. Like, a civilization's death. Just by listening to their transmissions. And they grieved Earth. Like, centuries, millennia after it had actually been evacuated. And, one of the things that happened is that they found Voyager. The dark matter have Voyager 1. They played the record, and they're like, oh, look at these little human guys. I love these guys. So they've developed, like, a fondness for humanity. It's like it's how they knew they weren't alone in the universe. And they took comfort in that. And then, when Earth's transmissions cut off, because dark matter are void beings, and the Master is a void being, the Master's influence, was also transmitting is, like, space-time aftershocks towards Darkstar, and when it hit, it manifested as the cognitovirus. So basically they had, like, a psychic disease rip through them that was really fucked up, and Zero had to deal with a lot of bullshit about having to, like, cure it and quarantine the victims of it, and it made him sad because he didn't like having to do these things to his little matter babies, because he loves them. But then, after a while, humanity woke back up earlier in the timeline, and their transmissions made their way out into space, and the dark matter heard them again, and it was like global celebrations. They're like, the humans are alive! Holy shit, guys! And then they hear about, like, first contact with Halcandra, and they're like, not only are the humans alive, there's more than just humans now. So, because they're void beings, they have access to bullshit fuck-off magic, so they managed to do some absolutely stupid faster-than-light travel to land. They set up shop in the outer edge of the Oort cloud, so they're, like, way on the edge. They're, like, I wouldn't say they're quite, I don't know where the difference is between the edge of the Oort cloud and the heliopause. I think the heliopause is further out before you hit the interstellar medium. But yeah, they set up shop in the Oort cloud, and they start parroting the hellos from the Voyager record back towards the center of the solar system. And humanity, the astronomers of the Novan Coalition picked up on them first, and they were like, what the fuck is this? This is a solid black object. It absorbs all light. We can barely see it through our telescopes. It just looks like just an empty patch of space. It just moved in a way that shouldn't be possible for a normal orbiting object to move. I think we are dealing with aliens. And then they start saying hello in human languages recorded in the 1960s. So, like, it's, like, it was pretty pretty special, because, like, the dark matter are super enthusiastic about getting to meet, their cosmic big brothers for the first time, and they sort of, work their way back. They're welcomed into the Novan Coalition, so by this time there's a few more planets involved. The Starin system as a whole is pretty thoroughly, under Novan control. And Darkstar Prime generally still, like, stays out in its little corner of the solar system. It doesn't really do much interference. But yeah, there's a lot of, like, there are exchange students and immigrants, and there's a diaspora population develops, because the dark matter on the whole value the gathering of information, and are just insatiably curious. And by this point, like, Zero is worshipped as, like, a creator god guardian figure, but, like, none of the other species know he exists, because they just hear this about this alien's religion, and they're like, oh yeah, it's a religion, I assume it's unfalsifiable, not knowing that their creator god is literally physically real and living at the core of Darkstar. But no one's allowed to go see him because he's cranky. He just woke up after, like, a fucking 6,000 year nap or something. Or, like, maybe he's still asleep. Zero's having a rough go of it. Zero's trying to conserve his energy and he's trying to keep his master fragment, under very tight control, because the echoes of the disruption reaching Darkstar and the resulting Cognito virus made his master fragment start to feel a little bit itchy. And because the master is a, like, god-tier void being, and the dark matter are void beings, but they're just mortals, this has the potential of them being able to be, like, completely fall under the master's control, with very little recourse. So Zero is, like, trying at all costs to keep his fragments, under lock and key so it doesn't hurt his little eyeball friends. And as a result, it ties back into this, because dream matter, as an extremely powerful, magical substance, is now, like, one of the main drivers of civilization at this point in time. And the dark matter start importing it to Darkstar, but they never seem to make anything with it. And what they're doing is they're feeding it to Zero, because the Seraph energy they're getting from the Dream Springs is directly from Rainbow Sanctuary, which is, like, Rainbow Sanctuary is Zero's birthplace, so the fountain there is designed to feed him and his siblings. And, an extra infusion of Seraph energy from his home nest is what he needs to sort of regain his strength and keep shit from going too bad with his master fragment. It makes him, and because, like, Zero already knows this, because he was involved in evacuating humans from Earth. The dark matter don't know that. Like, Zero keeps secrets from the dark matter and from mortal kind on the whole. So it's been a long-ass time. It has been several million years. And Zero's having a rough go of it. He feels very isolated. He misses his brothers and sisters. He's worried about his brothers who got their own master fragments. He doesn't know what happened to Necros. And once he does find out, he's fucking mortified. It's horrendous. Necros' master fragment was bigger than the others and, like, more active and more dangerous, and it eventually drove Necros mad, and that's how Necrodius happens. The founding of the Skull Gang. Where to next? Dark Matter First Contact. I think I covered, I covered Darkstar, Dream Matter Imports. Dark Matter, the introduction of Dark Matter to society does cause some, like, political unrest, because nobody knows how the fuck to deal with the person when they're part of a psychic hive mind. So, like, what is that all about? Because of that, they're like, it creates, like, social tension and strain, and, like, some of the organic species get kinda racist about it, which, like, and that just kind of, like, spirals out into just, like, it's... That kind of social tension, like, the Novan Empire continues for a pretty decently long time. Probably, like, this is, like... The Silent Era, I've, like, elided, like, 6 million years here, but there's a lot of shit, like, plot and lore important shit that happens during the reign of the Novans that happens over the course of a few, maybe a few thousand years, I think. So, like, the humans are charmed because the dark matter know them so well. Like, shit gets gnarly. Unrest happens. People are weird about the psychic eyeball people. And, like, their culture is strange. The way they die is that they, like, solidify into a black crystalline substance with, like, insanely high data storage, and that becomes part of Darkstar. And it's illegal to mine it on Darkstar. And one of the things the organics are mad about is, like, we have some excellent, like, data storage capabilities if you would just give us some. And you can't, because that's my grandma, you bitch. No. Like, it's blasphemous to them. So, like, they're seen as, like, taking a bunch of dream matter and not really offering a whole lot in return. And, like, Halkandra starts to have, like, a bigger politically mean streak than some of the other planets. Because they're comparatively a very young civilization. Humanity knows better by now not to go full fascist. And people on Popstar's just generally chill. Their culture overall, like, prizes friendship and cooperation. And they're just generally, they're almost kind of like the hobbits. Popstar's like the hobbits of the Empire, because everyone likes them, they're chill, they make great food, they throw the best parties, and they tend to temper some of the nastiness of some of the other planets, so... Okay, like, I'll just, like, label some of this. So, shit, like, things are relatively stable with the dark matter involved for a good several hundred years. Despite being as alien as they are, they acclimate pretty well to, living on other planets amongst other species. They just kind of slot right in and naturalize pretty easily. Because they're pretty adaptable. I can't remember if I had a connecting tissue between when shit starts to go sour and when... What is this? I'm gonna move you. I'm gonna hide these two. I'm gonna scoot this. Oh, bop, 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 wrong layer. Ooh. Just give me a sec. Give me a sec. Beep. Beep, beep. gonna erase the little Seraph energy thing, because that's recorded on the video. What was the inciting incident? Definitely there was an involvement. I went on a huge rant about this in text form to some friends. I'm gonna go back and try to reference some of that. Because I think... what was it? Yeah! So, like... they have normal-ass mortal souls. Their biology is bullshit because it's made of void magic. Shit starts to go a little bit sour on Halcandra. Halcandrats have this old, ancient, magical practice called gene bending, which is, like, the use of chaos magic to basically mutate yourself however the hell you want. And, this kind of fell out of favor as, like, ideologies rose where, cause, like, a major religion around the center, around the Highland area, has, like, Luth-Kuzash, known as Lor-Khazah, opposing a chaotic force known as Jamban, and it's kind of like the Satan. It's not quite a Satan analog. It's a Satan analog in these new forms of faith that are arising around this time. And, like, people are, like... there's, like, a dislike of chaos. And, like, a failure to understand that Lor-Khazah, the god of the religion, is also itself a chaos entity. And, like, people are aware of this. They'll say shit like, that's not very Denrai of you. Doesn't the scripture say this, that, and the other? And, like, this is kind of driven because, things between the capital planets are starting to even out a bit, like, power dynamics-wise. So Halcandra's used to being at the top, and when it starts to slip into even footing with Popstar and Ripplestar, people on Halcandra, like, get kind of bitter about it, and there's, like, it spirals from there, it gets kind of fashy, it gets even more fashy. They want to go back to the good old days when Halcandra was more powerful than everyone else and was in charge of everything. And shit goes sour because there was one dream spring in the same star system that Halcandra's in. It's on a planet called Pozrefta, and that was where Necros went to hide after the disruption. He just kind of chilled there. And his master fragment has been acting up, and suddenly, out of nowhere, all transmissions from the planet cease. Everyone on the planet is officially missing. All rescue parties also go missing. This is Necros turning into Necrodius, killing everyone on the planet, turning off the Dream Spring there, and raising all of his victims as as an undead army that would eventually become known as the Skull Gang. So Halcandra just lost a pretty big and important local source of dream matter, and having to rely on Popstar, and Ripplestar had a dream spring, but it's been, like, slowing down over the past several hundred years, and is slowly starting to dry up completely, just kind of on its own. And, what else did I have written? Halcandra wants to get, like, they're starting to pivot towards, like, being more aggressive and mean about wanting... This is, like, the whole concept. They were like, it's led by an empire. They're starting to do the worst parts of imperialism. Because the thing that they had, the resource that they had, suddenly vanished. And they're worried that asking nicely from their allies, which were originally their subordinates, won't go over as well as just taking it by force, and there are a lot of people advocating on Halcandra for people to take the dream matter by force. Shit gets weird with the dark matter, because the dark matter are importing lots of dream matter, and nobody seems to know what they're using it for. Popstar is probably the biggest exporter of dream matter, overall, the Fountain of Dreams is a very productive fountain. So, because of that, like I mentioned earlier, Popstar is like the nice guy of the galaxy. They have a generally friendly and generous, foreign policy. They have a friendly and generous culture. They're like, Halkandra's like, shows up on Popstar's doorstep and is like, hey, could you slow down the exports to Darkstar and send your dream matter to us? Because with that, tied up in that sort of like religious, ideological, political shift on Halkandra is a move away from traditional forms of Halkandran magic, which often incorporated chaos magic elements. Not always, but sometimes. And a greater and greater focus on magical technology. A greater focus on, like, dream matter-based technology, because dream matter is not like a castable magic. It is a thing what you use to make other things. It is an energy source. It's kind of like an oil analog a little bit. It's not quite oil. It's not quite electricity, but it can replace both of those things. It's the beating heart of civilization at this moment. So when Popstar says no, they're just like, nah. There's oh yeah. So, like, there's some gender politics involved in this. A little bit. There's gender politics involved, in, like, a side thing in the establishment of Floralia. I'll get to that in a bit. A dislike for just the general concept of chaos tends to lean more towards, like, it means, like, more of a love of order, which means there's, like, more suspicion and less, like, people are thinking less of freedoms available to them. There's, like, a greater interest in cracking down on people who speak out or people who don't fit the mold, and that would include any number of, like, countercultures and, like, sexual minorities, and, there's also racism. The Halkandrans do have a history of racism within, like, their own society, like, amongst Halkandrans, but also, like, with other species. It's like a whole, it's like a big old snarl of stuff, and, like, because of this, wizards, there's, like, a wizard basically a whole wizard class, kind of like as where artists exist as a class, or business owners exist as a class. Wizards, like, have a community, and it's not atypical for wizards to also be some form of gender diverse, and wizards are also more likely to be dissenters against, like, government crackdowns, and, like, the ability to directly cast magic became associated with the chaos that was slowly being villainized at this time. So, with this chaos, like, this, like, vague concept of chaos being vilified, order being preferred, Denrai straying from its, chaotic roots, like, shit like that. Denrai is, it wasn't like this originally, but, like, shit gets nasty. When were the inciting incidents? What was it? Dream Spring on Pausrefta just fucking, because Necrodius decided to throw shit. Yeah, now I'm looking at this again. It's like the wizards are more likely to dissent. The wizards kind of have countercultural or, like, authority-critical elements within them. They're put down for that reason. And this does spur migration between the planets. So, there's an enclave of Halkandrans living on Neostar. And it's been there before this, but as this sort of, like, political zeitgeist starts to heat up, like, this particular, like, just, starts to get worse, there is an uptick in Halcandrans moving from Halcandra to Neostar, notably people from Halcandran ethnic minorities. So they're seeing things and they're just like, I'm not interested in being a part of that. And you get like people like moving to Popstar. A similar sort of ideological rigidity and preference for status quo and control starts to heat up on Floria, which is another Imperial planet that I didn't really touch on. But Floria is the homeworld of the Antra and the Florals, and the Antra and Popstar is known for being, like, pretty safe and pretty free, and the gender politics I mentioned earlier, that has to do with the Florian migration, and the establishment of the Kingdom of Floralia in Popstar skies. And that's because the gender politics involved in that are because the Antra are a eusocial species of wasps. They're wasp people, so they're the way their biology works, they don't really have binary gender like we do, but they do have eusocial bug morphology, so like queen, soldier, worker, etc. I think I made like queens, lords, workers, drones, and soldiers. I think those were all the castes that I had worked out for the Antra species. Anyway, because of that, because of having like a different paradigm of like what your biology makes you, like they also have like a different paradigm of what it means to be trans. So instead of usually, like, they technically do have what we would consider being transgender, but drone is just one of several morphs. So it's usually transmorphic for them instead of strictly transgender. You can have, and it's because they don't really have our sense of gender. It's based on morphs. So because of that, and at Popstar broadly has a reputation for being queer safe compared to other parts of the Empire. Humanity's worked on it. They've made a lot of progress since what we're at today. But Popstar's just so fucking chill about it, and the reason for that is that their leading species, the puffballs, have little to no sexual dimorphism, so they just do not give a shit. And a group of Antra hives and florals settled on Popstar and founded Floralia because, like, shit was getting kinda gross back home, and they wanted to, like, commit to, like, a more, like, a safer environment for, transcaste Antra and, the transgender people of Floria who might be negatively affected by this kind of, thing. I'm not really using my visual aid anymore, I'm gonna pop over here. So, dark matter is still exporting dream matter. Ideological shifts are... The dark matter are importing dream matter from Popstar. Halcandra's had a harder time getting to it. They can go to Mechai, but Mechai was built to be self-sufficient and run on their dream matter, like, by themselves, so they use most of it, and there's not much surplus they can send to Halcandra to continue, Halcandran heavy industries. And, like, it's just... You can tell I am criticizing, current events through a similar path of political development that resulted in the fall of the Novan Empire. Now the real meat of it, I just kind of laid out like, ooh, there's a kind of a nasty social environment forming here. The reason that's relevant is because I've been noticing my avatar's bald spot showing more often. I need to fix that. one of the big counterculture, like, there are, like, counterculture springing up in the face of this kind of, these developments, and, one of these countercultures is the Terminist religious movement. That should sound familiar. So Terminism, worship of void termina, it's almost like, it's like, vibes-wise, it's like, okay, veneration of chaos as a necessary part of things. Veneration of the endings. All things must end. It is a good thing that things can end. And we needn't, fight change, basically. Fighting change. Like, nothing lasts forever. Fighting change is a futile battle. You can still enjoy the world you live in. And this sprang up because, like, the general ideological nastiness that was springing up around this time was based on, like, Halcandrian conservatives being afraid of losing power over the Empire. They wanted to stay top dog. They don't understand why they shouldn't be. They don't understand why these things are changing. They don't think it's a good thing. They think it's a problem that needs fixing, rather than just kind of like a natural progression of history and, like, a shift in how different things interact with each other. And this does, like, because of that, the like, grabbiness with power, like, the people in the Terminists, like, there are several sects of Terminism where it's, some of it's, like, cyclical Terminism, like, everything ends so that new things can begin. Let things end, because the end is never the end is never the end. Restorative Terminism, bad things can end. Let's bad things end. Let's help let's work towards ending bad things. And then there's the apocalyptics. And you know where this is going. You know where it's happening with the apocalyptic Terminists, where they're like, this world is, like, bleh. Let's fucking burn the whole thing down. Magical apocalypse. Woo! If we don't end it, it will end much more painfully later. And, of course, the backlash to the backlash was, Terminism being, it wasn't persecuted at first, but it started to, it grew into, like, a bit of a it wasn't like a crackdown, it wasn't immediate. It, like, grew slowly from a general popular, or, like, an establishment distaste for the Terminist movement, which then grew into, it started to grow into a crackdown. And, like, the kind of ideology that, we're, like, Terminism's ideological opponents began to paint all of them with the same brush as the apocalyptics, so they kind of lumped them all together. It's like, oh, they're trying to destroy the world. That sucks. We should, ban people from doing this thing. And, because of, like, wizards being kind of pushed off into the chaos corner, a lot of wizards picked up on, Terminism and kind of joined those communities and felt like they were more free to practice their magical craft. And you know where this guy could go on and on about, like, how this parallels unfortunate events in real life. What eventually happens is that enough, like, tensions rise high enough, and the Terminists are pushed far enough into a corner that they like, start, like, it gets, what did I have? Did they start committing terrorist attacks? I have them, like, they were on some culty shit. They were on some culty shit, and this culty shit turned into loud protests, which turned into, like, what is it? Oh yeah, Emperor Renlor. Yeah. Emperor Renlor was the second to last emperor, and he was actually a decent guy. He managed to hold things down, for the extent of his reign, and so the unrest kind of, like, contracted while he was alive, but he died young. So that little moment of peace where people could breathe for a bit just ended suddenly, and his son is a spoiled, rotten brat. Everyone fucking hates Nerylor. He's kind of a bastard, and he's, like, in on that same sort of ideological nastiness that has been brewing for a while. Is like, it's less strictly ooh magic bad, because he is the emperor, and the imperial bloodline has a very strong magical ability. It's like they all have very strong magical talents. With the proper training, they can become very powerful wizards. But there's definitely a bit where, like, Nerylor wants to be the wizard as his imperial birthright. He wants to bring other wizards under his control. The wizards don't like that. A lot of wizards have become terminists or are turned to terminism because of these events. Shit goes, yeah, ooh, yeah. It wasn't, like, terrorism, but some, like, terminists and, like, popular wizard sympathizers, like, wizard Antifa, vandalism and theft of magical artifacts. Shit goes absolutely spectacularly sideways when Nerylor decides to just fucking hit the big red button and take the Master Crown. Motherfucker is immediately subsumed by the Master's will, because he's an obnoxious brat who wants to control people. The Master's an obnoxious brat who wants to control people. Or control universes and lots of physics and shit, and just kind of, like, tear it apart and put it back together as it pleases. It's So, giant eldritch kaiju rampaging through the capital city of Halkandra. Very bad. It has exploded into cosmic horror territory. So you know how the Terminists respond? They fucking summon Void Termina. The Master and Void Termina fight. The big kaiju fight. A lot of people die in collateral damage. It's a mess. The city is heavily damaged. Finally, once the Master, once Nerylor's soul is subdued enough, people, like wizards and magic technicians, manage to get him under control and seal the Master Fragment back into the Master Crown. Void's not done yet. Void was resurrected for, like, a lot of that, like, resentment and nastiness had built up in the Terminists as well, because they felt they were being treated unfairly, which they were. And Void sort of drew on that based on the sacrifices people made to resurrect him. And he just starts wrecking shit. He fucking... See, what did I say here? Shit gets extremely fast. The crisis. Giant kaiju fight ensues. Halkandra Space Navy is there. So yeah, Void Termina, like, demolishes another piece of the capital city, and then rips open a hole in reality and leaves for Starin and starts wreaking havoc over there. Level cities on planets across the system. Floria, Popstar, I think on Ripple Star, yeah. Some. He cracks Rockstar like a walnut, so Rockstar from Kirby 64 is in pieces, and that's why. Void broke it. He broke it! And, like, shit, that's the galactic crisis. That's the crisis that Highness mentions in his rant. So, galactic crisis is Nerylor taking a Master Crown, the Master Fragment and Void fighting, Void not having his fill of destruction and going on an absolute rampage that, like, destroys a lot of shit. Planets are cracked open, lots of people die, lots of infrastructure is just annihilated. And then, like, the four heroes are there. Like, the four heroes have been alive and, like, been keeping up with this. The four heroes kind of come out of nowhere. They're not really, like, ordained knights or anything. They're just kind of, they come off as civilians. I think they're generally civilians. Eon the Puffball hero, I think he might have some kind of, he probably has some kind of knightly designation, but Asujao is a civilian, Zeikat's a civilian, Sappho's a civilian. Yeah. And that's because things are a little looser on Popstar to begin with, so of course the Puffball would probably be able to have less, like, oversight peering over his shoulder and still be able to, like, keep a kind of knightly status as, like, a semi-trained military man. So these people just kind of fly in out of nowhere, and they use the power of friendship to put Void in a box. The Jamba Heart happens, the Halcandran government confiscates the Jamba Heart, and they start getting up to some fucking bullshit top-secret government experiments on the Jamba Heart that eventually result in Galactonite. That's how Galacta happens. He's like a freakish void energy, heart energy, Puff Halcandran hybrid, and he's like, Galacta's not having a good time. Galacta is, Galacta had it rough. And that's what happens when you raise a kid, when you raise a guy from his childhood, from infancy basically, to be a fucking killing machine. He was trained as a super weapon, basically. And the reason they were insisted on, like, and it's not just, like, the fact that the Jamba Heart is an immense source of power and, ooh, maybe we could get some magical power out of this. It's that heart magic had never been manifested like that before, so they wanted to study it. And, it was a little more difficult than they expected it to. Eventually, they just, like, fucking ejected it into space or something. And then, so there's that, with Void sealed, shit still hasn't cleared up, because the Emperor is dead, he has no official heirs, he has, 7 bastards scattered across Alcandra, who all probably have equal claim to the throne, because he has no legitimate heirs, so there's a succession crisis, and eventually the whole shit collapses, and there's a military coup. So now Alcandra is under the control of its military, the fucking Jamba Heart experiments are going on in the background. Once they start doing more studies, they try to, like, unravel what it means, what the Master Crown is, what Void Termina is, and they have this whole thing where, like, the advancement of, magical technology throughout the previous era between contact with the dark matter and growing unrest. People have developed the ability to track magical signatures, which kind of lets you see what type of magic is here. So, like, Seraph Energy has a distinct signature, Chaos Magic has a distinct signature, regular-ass mortal souls have a distinct signature, and so on and so forth. The scientists started to notice that there was a similarity in magical signature between the Master Crown, the Jamba Heart, and the Dark Matter. And this is because they are all void-based entities, but they don't know that. And this spurs some, like targeted, fear-mongering and shit, and that spirals out of control, and that eventually results in growing resentment because the Dark Matter are still importing lots of dream matter, and nobody knows what it's for, and now Popstar, and I think I mentioned Mechai earlier, Mechai had a lot of its surplus drained, as surplus dream matter drained to help rebuild after Void fucked shit up, and Popstar had to put a lot of its dream matter towards humanitarian aid after Void fucked shit up. So, like, I think this is when they actually stopped exporting so much dream matter to Darkstar. Because they're still, like, they're not telling anyone about it. Because they, like, say the whole Zero thing, and it's like, oh, it's for a religious ritual, I guess. I think what... Yeah, when I'm, like, double-checking what I wrote before... Yeah... The tensions are still high. Popstar isn't happy with what the fuck happened with Void Termina. They're using their sparkling stars to send, like, food donations to suffering areas. Ripple Star is considering secession from the Coalition. Halkandra is in shambles. It's the Imperial chain of command has collapsed. It's very possible that planets further from the Imperial core are very able to declare independence, and Imperial officials on those planets would just get instantly overrun because they're probably understaffed and underfunded and underarmed. And then... Shit, yeah. The shit happened. It, like, just because of the overall environment, Galacta was probably developed, like, his own personal bigotries towards the dark matter that, is probably taught that way on purpose by the government handlers that raised him. Because if they're gearing up to call this planet an enemy... Yeah, it makes sense that they'd raise their super weapon killing machine baby to think of this people as an enemy without really examining it. And the shit that makes things boil over is that, because, like, the whole Void incident, the whole Master incident, made Zero's Master Fragment get a little frisky, and so now he's a little more desperate to restabilize himself. And he gets his wish. But it results in dark matter stealing canisters of dream matter, and, like, things escalate into open hostilities. The dark matter, occupy Half Moon, and lay claim to the Dream Spring there. Shit gets nasty. Shit is nasty. What am I? Most people don't think Zero exists. They don't understand why the dark matter is so desperate for this shit. It's just a religious ritual. People are dying. We need to rebuild our society before we can do things for non-essentials. And they, like... The thing is, Zero getting that dream matter is very much essential, but nobody else knows about it. And because nobody else knows about it, like, they don't... It's not, like, factoring into their decision-making. So, like, shit just keeps getting worse, and Zero's probably keeping way too many secrets, because he doesn't want to tell them about tell the dark matter about the Master, because the Master could easily take control of them all, and then he doesn't want to, like... Dude's lonely, he doesn't want to, like, scare them away from him. So yeah, open conflict, Space Navy, yeah. Things escalate into open conflict, Space Navy battles, fighting the dark matter is a completely new experience because of how strange they are. Because they can just fly unaided in space. Shit gets wild. Shit gets nasty, shit gets bad enough that Zero himself emerges from Dark Star and joins the fight. He starts shooting down spaceships with magic angel lasers. And Halkandra goes, "Oh, we have a solution to this. It's Galactonite." Halkandra deploys the motherfucker. Galacta and Zero fight nearly to the death. Galacta rips Zero's core out, like, chucks it into space. Zero had to hold back. He could have pretty much vaporized Galacta if he wanted to, but he needed all of the energy he could to keep his Master Fragment from escaping, because that would cause another galactic crisis. So, here he is. Like, he has to, like, fucking... Dark matter have to continue, like, stealing snippets of dream matter. Like, just, like, shit just keeps happening. What I have written down? Yeah. So after, like, Galacta wins the space battle turned fist fight turned I am going to rip your head off with my bare hands fight with Zero, that display of power scares the shit out of Halcandran military leadership, and, like, he is in, like, such a upset blood rage after the fight that when he's picked up, he kills, 2 of the medics that were assigned to, get him into the med bay, and, cause, like, he's not thinking, he's just, like, go, kill, and they have to trank him to get him into the med bay, and this, like, develops into... That eventually leads to Galactonite's sealing. So, Galactonite is sealed away then outside of the universe because he's just that powerful. He's, like, just launched into the ether. Poor Schmuck is now outside of time. Zero is now gravely wounded, barely holding himself together, and has to get his dark matter minions to go out and collect either dream energy or just, like, physical, like, organic material so he can rebuild some semblance of a body so he can function on both his physical and magical levels in order to keep the fragment sealed. And that's why he's just a big circle in Dreamland 3, is because, like, that is, like, he's just a circle. He's just, like, a blob of fat and muscle. He hasn't, like, put himself back together yet. 02 represents an attempt on his part to slowly grow back into that, but he's still, like, very limited on his resources. And then he gets annihilated, like, totally physically, at the end of Kirby 64, and he has to race back to Rainbow Sanctuary, because his physical form is completely gone. He has to hold the master inside of his sword. Basically, like, think about, like, you needing to run to a trash can when you're, like, about to throw up. He, like, needs to get back to Rainbow Sanctuary and start rebuilding his body at home. And so, like, that further ties back into the original ancient problem of the Empire collapsing and the hostilities with the Dark Matter, because, the Zero vanishing is a huge deal. Their god is missing, and they don't fully understand how or why, and they're pissed about it, and the Dark Matter do tie that back to the injustices wreaked upon them during the Ancient Era around the fall of the Empire. So, like, they're pissed at Halcandra for it. And, like, in the intervening 1,000 years, the portal technology that connected Halcandra to the rest of the galaxy, outside of its little ether bubble, they've closed. Halcandra's just by itself now. So they've had to pivot all, like, the military dictatorship eventually, like, collapsed in its own right and slowly gave way to a representative democracy. So things are better there now than they have been, but they still need improvements. But also, like, shit has just, like, a lot of Halcandrans have, like, forgotten that chunk of history. Not totally, but it's, like, so far in the past that they're just like, we need to deal with modern issues. We need to deal with the fact that we can't rely on Popstar to feed us anymore. So we have to grow our own food and ration it carefully and make sure everyone is alive and healthy and make sure we don't have a fucking genome bottleneck from a population drop in the event that we do run out of our resources. And that results in, like, an unpleasant stagnation in modern-day Halcandra, where, like, the arts have been gutted, The humanities are slowly being gutted. Magalor's a professional historian working for the government, and, like, part of his motivation is, like, he is in, like, a place mentally where he's got fucking mondo untreated ADHD. He's barely scraping his life together. He's pushed his friends and family away. He's not having a good time. And, like, he's just kind of, like, marinating in his, like, childhood dreams being dead due to forces beyond his control. And then Return to Dreamland happens. I have skipped over so much shit. I just went, I was like, oh yeah, Zero has to rebuild himself, and that's why he's this, and then he dies again, and I jumped straight from End of the Empire to Kirby 64, while completely ignoring the fact that Nova has been observing all of this. Galactic Nova, the Clockwork Star, he's just been observing all this shit in the background and saying, like, oh, this is, ooh, interesting. These things are bad. I think we could do something to fix them. So Nova designs a purpose-built hero out of... he takes, like, genetic samples from various sources. He takes some from Eon. He has some from Galacta. Because he's a big fuck-off computer, he has access to a bajillion data sources and is able to fucking, like... the Halcandran the provisional government of Halcandra, after the fall of the Empire, cannot hide from him. Their databases are basically an open book to him. So he combines, like, Eon, Galacta, a bit of Zero, a bit of Temaluk, Puffballs in general, in a piece of Void Crystal left from the Galactic it was either left from the Galactic Crisis or left from when Void first came into the universe during the disruption. And he didn't fully arrive in the universe, he just kind of, like, influenced it a bit from the outside, because he can't fit into the universe in his full form, which is why he needs to be summoned specially. And that's why the Galactic Crisis summoning went wrong. That's why the Star Ally summoning went wrong. It could hypothetically go right, but Void is not meant to exist in this universe without some form of, like, magical buffer. But yeah, this little crystal bit that Nova found during his adventures through space, scouring the world for tech and materials and stuff he could use. And he just, like, creates Kirby. And is, like, Kirby lives out, like, his, like, little bitty baby helpless infancy aboard Nova. And he has, like, very distant, hazy memories of stargazing through one of Nova's eyes. But, like, Puffball children are, like, fairly precocious in their development. You know how, like, seals can just leave their pups out on the snow, and they just kind of sit there? Puffballs can do that, too. Puffballs regularly do that. And, there's a general culture of communal child-rearing in multiple puff cultures, from Axelars to the Vesper Puffs to the Waddle Dees, especially the Waddle Dees. The Waddle Dees are so community-oriented. But, like, he just, like, leaves him on Popstar when he's, like, 2 years old. And, hopes, like, someone will take care of him or, like, look after him, and he should be able to fend for himself for a little while. But, yeah, it's usually they hope at least one person comes along. And who comes along but Rick and Koo? So yeah, Rick and Koo are, like, his first adoptive dads, and that's the beginning of his dad collection. So yeah, Kirby's just, like, a little superpowered guy, full of magic and love. I think, Nova probably did some private research on heart, the power of friendship as it binds the universe together, away from the prying eyes of the Halcandran government. And he probably found is like, oh yes, the power of friendship is way stronger than we first anticipated. Let's do something about that. Let's maybe use that. So like, and because he's a fucking clockwork star and is vastly intelligent, he was able to isolate the force of heart from the Jamba heart, from like Void's toxic influence. Because if Void gets resurrected as a bad guy, he's going to be like bad. He's like a corrupting influence. And that's why Galacta ended up the way he did, because he just ended up like the kind of like pure, positive heart. Like, Kirby didn't become such a good, sweet kid, like, genetically. He had to be raised that way, and Ku and Rick raised him well. And, like, Kirby did have, like, a very strong sense of fairness, and, like, Nova absolutely doted on him as a baby, because, like, you can't just siphon heart matter or heart energy from one place and put it in another. You literally just have to generate it through sheer force of will and just a heart full of love. And with enough, like, magical influence combined with, hey little buddy, the universe is your oyster. You're here to protect it. You are here to love it. I need you to love it with all your heart. That's kind of what helps awaken Kirby's true potential. And then Spring Breeze happens. King Dedede steals all the food in Dreamland as like an intimidation tactic to get people to recognize his rule. He gets the shit kicked out of him by a literal toddler. Kirby brings all the food back because of his strong sense of justice despite his age. He's sharing is caring, and he learned that very early. And then Dedede subsequently had beef with a kindergartner for multiple years. And the rest is fucking history. And by history, I mean video games. There are interstitial bits of my headcanon, like, between the canon games, but I lay the groundwork for, like, all the cosmic shit, all of, like, the historical, political shit, why things are the way they are in the present day of the Kirby universe, and, like, what Kirby has to do in order to solve that. Like, I do have a big plan for one day, resolving the whole Master Fragment situation, where Kirby has to defeat an almost completely restored form of the Master. Almost because other pieces of it got killed the fuck because Magolor was a spiteful and vengeful little bitch. But the big fragments from, like, the Angels and from Saturn all coalesce back together in one of my fanfic ideas, and Kirby manages to kill it the fuck for good. And that actually takes place before Star Allies, because that story involves the ultimate redemption of the Angels, who are also canon villains. Because, like, Kirby does not understand them as anything other than villains until that point. But, like, that's how he's able to get... It's why he's able to leave Popstar undefended during the whole thing. It's why Dark Meta Knight is a Star Ally. So on and so forth and so shit. My voice is shot. I haven't had a sip of water in a while. I think I've gone over enough of my headcanon, and I've landed it in a nice, comfortable spot where I tell you how Kirby got here, and what he was made for, and what the world wants out of him, and what he wants out of the world, and, like, a little bit of context around the game series, then I think I'm gonna call it for tonight. I hope you enjoyed this fucking deranged ramble. God, for almost 4 hours of just me talking about shit that I completely made up around Kirby. None of this shit is... Oh, some of it's, like, a little canon, but it's not very canon. And most of it, like, my source is that I made it the fuck up. But, like, I made it the fuck up to connect the dots. I've connected the dots. I've connected them. And that's the fun part about Kirby, is that you can connect dots endlessly and get so many different results. And it's very fun. So, with that, I'm gonna leave it there. Y'all have a nice weekend. Stay fresh, stay frosty. Thanks for listening to this absolute insanity that was my Kirby headcanon stream. Okay, good night, y'all. Sweet dreams.